Chapter 1523 Chapter 1523 Treasure Locking Party. Then I'll see you in 10 days at the treasure auction. Zifeng said. Let's go. Mo Yang was the first to turn around and leave. He glared at Lu Ming and left with the people from the Tianyu demon sect. Following that, the people from the Heavenly God sect and the Yudu sect also left. In the blink of an eye, all the people from the three sects had left. The storm was over. Lu Ming, thank you for your help, Senior Brother Zifeng and Senior Brother Frost Tide. Xuanixin, thank you. Lu Ming, Tianxue and Xuanixin cupped their fists at Zifeng and Han Chao to express their gratitude. And no need to be so polite. The three of you are not bad. The three of you can participate in this time's treasure auction. Zifeng nodded his head. Treasure auction? Lu Ming was still in a daze. Wasn't it the treasure sealing assembly? Why was there an additional treasure locking little meeting? Don't worry, Senior Brother. I was just about to participate. They'll definitely kill the three great sects to my heart's content. Tianxue grinned, his eyes filled with malevolence. Xuanixin also nodded in agreement. Let's return to the base first. Zifeng nodded his head and left, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Then the other disciples of the Dragon God Valley flew toward the Dragon God Valley. Senior Brother, Senior Sister, what's going on with the treasure-setting party? Lu Ming asked curiously on the way. The treasure auction is a sparring session between the 13 top sects before the start of the auction. The participants must be under LV7 Martial Emperor realm and below the age of 50. Tianxue explained. In the Yuan continent, the nature of a youth was different from that of the Divine Wilderness continent. In the Divine Wilderness continent, those below the age of 30 were the younger generation. They were the golden years of cultivation. However, in Yuanlu, those below 50 were the younger generation. Because the cultivation environment in the Yuan continent was too good, many people could break through to the martial royal realm at a young age. Their lifespans reached 10,000 to 20,000 years, and their vitality was extremely vigorous. In comparison to 10 to 20,000 years, 50 years old was still the golden age of youth, the age of endless potential. In fact, those below the 7th level of the martial royal realm are considered the reserve forces of their respective sections. They will all participate in the treasure-fixing assembly in 3 or 6 years. This can be considered as an observation. We can roughly see the situation of the future treasure-fixing assembly and the future strength of each major sect. The Snow Dragon explained. Lu Ming came to a realization. This could be considered a small-scale treasure-fixing assembly. Hence, it was called the treasure-fixing assembly. The 13 sects also attach great importance to the treasure settlement ceremony. The sects ranked in the last 3 are not qualified to participate in this year's treasure settlement ceremony. It's equivalent to being eliminated in advance. Therefore, each treasure settlement ceremony is also unusually tragic. Xuanixin continued to explain. It's actually like this? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The treasure auction was directly linked to the treasure auction. Those ranked in the last 3 would not be qualified to participate in the treasure auction. This meant that only 10 sects would participate in the treasure auction at a time. Each sect will send 36 4th to 6th level martial emperors to participate. There are still 10 days left. Let's go back and cultivate. At that time, we'll kill to our heart's content. Tianxue said. This time he felt really aggrieved. It wasn't that he wasn't strong enough, but that the other party's opponents were all experts of a higher cultivation level, using their cultivation level to suppress others. However, there wouldn't be any experts above the 6th level martial royal realm in the treasure auction. All of you must be well prepared. This time's treasure auction may be very dangerous. The Deity sect, the Tianyu demon sect, and the Yudu sect may join forces to deal with our Dragon God Valley. All of you must be well prepared. Cold Wave said. Senior Brother, don't worry. They'll kill anyone I see. Tianxue grinned, revealing his ferocity. Although your combat strength is strong, you can't underestimate your enemy. As far as I know, every sect has a heaven's favorite with an upper-class earth spiritual body, and many of them have reached the peak of the 6th level martial royal realm. Especially the Tianxin sect, they have produced many heaven's favorites over the years and are known as the #1 sect in the Azure region. They can't be underestimated. Frosttide said. Although Han Chao cultivated the Ice Dragon combat body, the scholar was very easygoing. He chatted with everyone along the way. Soon they returned to the Dragon God Valley base. As soon as they returned to the encampment, Lu Ming, Tianxue, Xuanixin, and the others returned to their rooms and went into seclusion to cultivate. There were still 10 days left before the treasure auction. The true dragon meat that Tian Shui had obtained back then had not been completely used up yet. During this period of time he could increase his strength a little more. Xue Ningxin's dragon crystal had not been fully digested yet, so her strength could also be improved. As for Lu Ming, he entered the mountain and river diagram after entering the room and sat cross-legged under the path understanding ancient tree. And NBSP previously, the stone-crowned sneak attack had placed him in a life-and-death situation. At that critical moment, his potential had exploded, and his chaos domain had reached the peak of level 4, only a step away from level 5. Now, he had to continue to improve his cultivation. His cultivation was at the early stage of the 4th level Martial Emperor realm. Now, he was going to raise it to the peak of the 4th level Martial Emperor realm, which was the same as the territory. With a wave of his hand, a pile of raw gemstones appeared. Lu Ming began to devour and refine the raw gemstones. His cultivation base began to rise rapidly. 5 days later, Lu Ming's cultivation had successfully reached the peak of the 4th level Martial Royal realm. Lu Ming spent the rest of the time cultivating the 13 accumulated strikes under the path understanding ancient tree. Perhaps it was because of the pressure before the treasure auction, he had accumulated power for 13 strikes and cultivated it to the 6th level, the perfected level, which greatly increased its power. At this moment, the time for the treasure auction had arrived. There were 36 young men standing in a huge courtyard at the Dragon God Valley's encampment. They were all at the 4th to 6th level Martial Royal realm and were all geniuses. Most of them had inferior earth spiritual bodies. Ordinary people with spirit bodies were not qualified to participate at all. Lu Ming, Tian Shui, and Xue Ningxin were also among them. In addition, Lu Ming also discovered a few familiar faces. Blood Dragon Valley. After this period of cultivation, Silver City's cultivation had advanced to the 6th level of the Martial Royal realm. Yu and Blizzard Silver City stood together and mumbled softly, casting cold glances at Lu Ming from time to time. At this moment, an elder of the Saint Realm appeared in front of everyone. This time the treasure auction is of great importance. I hope you will do your best to protect the honor of Dragon God Valley. The Saint Realm elder said. This disciple will definitely die without hesitation. The 36 young men and women shouted. Alright, let's have a little treasure hunt. Holy weapons can't be used. At the very best you can only use king weapons. You should know that, right? The Saint Realm elder said. I know. Everyone replied. Good. This time the leader of the 36 of you will be Han Sun. You will have to listen to his arrangements in the treasure auction, understand? The Saint Realm elder said. Yes. Everyone nodded. Lu Ming's gaze shifted to a young man in a white robe. This person was somewhat similar to Han Chao. He was Han Chaos' younger brother. He was extremely talented, even more so than Han Chao. He had a superior earth spiritual body and his cultivation had reached the peak of the 6th level Martial Emperor realm. He was considered the strongest person below the 7th level Martial Emperor realm in Dragon God Valley. Chapter 1524 1524 Chapter 1524 Confrontation. After the Sage Realm Elder finished his instructions, he led everyone and flew towards the location of the treasure auction. Of course they weren't the only ones going. Many other disciples would also go to watch. The location of the treasure settlement party was in a huge building halfway up the Tsang Mountains. The building was circular and empty. When Lu Ming and the group arrived they saw a huge fighting ring in the middle of the building. Around the fighting ring, there were 13 huge cylindrical platforms. They were slightly higher than the fighting ring and surrounded it in the middle. Looking down from the sky, there was a number on each of the cylindrical platforms. From 1 to 13, they were arranged counterclockwise in order. On the outer side of the cylindrical platform were rows of grandstands. The terrain was slightly higher than the cylindrical platform, so those sitting on the grandstands could clearly see the situation on the fighting stage. Further out of the grandstand, there were many pavilions built at an even higher location. We participants will land on those platforms. Let's go down. Han Sun said as he descended. They didn't deliberately pick a platform and landed on the 10th platform. The Saint Realm Elder flew into a pavilion. The other Dragon God Valley disciples who had come with Lu Ming and the others landed on the stands behind the 10th platform. Your Dragon God Valley sect is early. A cold voice rang out. In the sky, holy light filled the air. The people of the Tianxin sect had arrived. The people of the Heavenly God sect did not hold back and directly landed on the first platform. As for the disciples of the Heavenly God sect who were not participating, they landed on the grandstand behind the first platform. Bus, bus, and NBSP whoosh. At this time the sound of the air being torn could be heard. In the sky, dense crowds of people were flying over. The 13 top sects arrived one after another. Each sect had 36 participating disciples who landed on the platform. The other disciples landed on the grandstand. The Jianghu demonic sect landed on the second platform. Heaven Seek King, platform number 3. Evil Moon sect, platform number 4. Desire Poison sect, platform number 5. Jiuxiao Sword sect, platform number 6. Linglong Palace, platform number 7. Platform number 8 was empty, and there were still sects that had not arrived. Intentionless Saber sect, platform number 9. The 10th platform was Dragon God Valley, and the 11th platform was Piyuan family. Platform number 12 was the Blood Demon Tower. Platform number 13 was the Demon Castle. Of the 13 top sects, there was still one sect that had not come. It was the most mysterious Life and Death Sword sect. Whoosh, whoosh. At this time sword lights broke through the air. The people of the Life and Death Sword sect had arrived. So few people? Lu Ming looked over and could not help being stunned. The Life and Death Sword sect had sent a total of 13 people. Excluding the old man who was leading the group, there were only 12 people in the younger generation. Bus. And NBSP whoosh. The 12 youths of the Life and Death Sword sect landed on the 8th platform. All 13 sects had arrived. Lu Ming, the Life and Death Sword sect. Due to its strict requirements for accepting disciples, it has the least number of people. Every time they participate in the treasure auction, there are always 12 people. Sometimes they might not even be able to gather enough people. Although they are at a disadvantage with fewer people, no one dares to look down on them. This is because every member of the Life and Death Sword sect is a genius. They cultivate the Life and Death Sword technique and are extremely powerful. Xuaning Xin explained softly. Lu Ming nodded. He saw a familiar face in the Life and Death Sword sect, Luo Xiang. He had a deep impression of this person. He had stayed at the peak of the Supreme Being realm and had nurtured his sword soul for 15 years. This was an extremely terrifying person. Hehe Dragon God Valley, you really dare to come. In the Tianyu demon sect, Mo's cold gaze fell on Dragon God Valley and Lu Ming. Isn't it better that they're here? This time, let's make everyone from Dragon God Valley stay here. One of the Heaven's Pride experts of the Tianxin sect said coldly. Holy light was faintly visible on his body, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. That's right, it's best not to leave a single one alive. In the Desire Poison sect, the young man who had intercepted Lu Ming's group earlier spoke coldly, his eyes glaring fiercely at Lu Ming's group. Strength is not something that can be determined by words. Well, know who lives and who dies later. Lu Ming said indifferently, his fists clenched slightly. This time he would kill to his heart's content. Lu Ming, I'm going to take your life. He pointed at Lu Ming and a ray of saber light condensed. I'm going to take your life too. Lu Ming responded indifferently. The Dragon God Valley, the Tianyu demon sect, the Yudu sect, and the Tianxin sect were already filled with the smell of gunpowder even before the battle started. Not only them. The other sects also had their own conflicts. At this moment, they were also looking at each other with killing intent, filling the scene with a solemn atmosphere. At this time, in a courtyard of the Tianxin sect, the Son of God stood with his hands behind his back. Shi Guan stood respectfully behind the Son of God and reported the situation. I didn't expect that so many things would happen when I arrived a few days late. The people of Dragon God Valley are getting bolder and bolder. You're also useless. You can't even kill a few people who are below the 7th level of the martial royal realm. The divine child said coldly, his voice cold. If it wasn't for that kid's strangeness and his pet that can affect time and space, I would have killed him long ago. Shi Guan said. The spacetime spirit rat was a legendary creature and not everyone knew it. Even Shi Guan did not recognize it as a spacetime spirit rat. A pet that can affect time and space. The Son of God's eyes suddenly turned cold, and a cold killing intent burst out of his body. Tell me, what does that kid look like? And what do his two companions look like? Is there a true dragon among them? The Son of God asked a few questions. There is indeed a true dragon, a snow dragon, and then the stone crown described the image and appearance of Lu Ming and the rest. It's really these kids. They dared to trick me in the Dragon Palace. The Son of God's eyes were cold. Back then, in the Dragon Palace, he had used an ancient void-sealing god talisman to suppress the Black Dragon's corpse. However, someone had sabotaged the ancient talisman and allowed the Black Dragon to escape. All his efforts were in vain. He had always wanted to find out who the person who secretly did it was. Now he knew that it was Lu Ming. If it was not Lu Ming, who else could it be that could affect time and space? You reckless fool. Where is he now? I'll go and kill him. The Son of God's body emitted a cold killing intent. Divine Son that Lu Ming should be participating in the treasure auction. The 13 top sects are gathered here. If we attack now, I'm afraid it will incur the wrath of the other sects. Shi Guan hurriedly said. Then it won't be too late to kill him after the treasure auction. After saying that, the Son of God took a step forward and disappeared. At the venue of the treasure auction, the smell of gunpowder was getting stronger and stronger. At that moment an old man appeared in the fighting ring. This old man was dressed in white. He was a Saint Realm elder of the Divine Sky sect. In the past few years, the strength of the Tianxin sect had become stronger and stronger. They had already won first place in 2 consecutive treasure-fixing conventions. Even in the small treasure-fixing conventions, the Tianxin sect had won first place twice. The Tianxin sect had already announced that they wanted to win 3 consecutive championships. Regardless of whether it was the General Assembly or the Small Assembly, they wanted to obtain first place. Chapter 1525. 1525 Working together against Dragon God Valley. Since our sect won first place last time, he'll be in charge this time, and the elders will supervise. The voice of the Sage Realm Elder of the Heaven God sect spread across the entire place. He looked around and said, I believe that most of you already know the rules of the competition, but I'd like to repeat them again. You are divided into 13 platforms. Except for the Life and Death Sword sect, each sect has 36 people. The rules of the competition are very simple. First, the Deity sect on the first platform will send one person to the fighting stage. He can challenge anyone from any sect. The competition will end when one of them is killed or thrown off the fighting stage. The winner will return to the platform and wait for others to challenge him. After the first platform, it's the second platform sect's turn to send out a challenger. They can also challenge anyone from any sect until one person is defeated. Just like that, it's the third platform's turn to send someone to challenge, followed by the fourth platform all the way to the 13th platform. That's one round. At least 13 people will be eliminated in one round. In theory, there will be a total of 36 rounds. Do you understand? The Sage Realm Elder of the Heavenly God sect shouted. Understood. Everyone responded. Remember, you are not allowed to admit defeat during the challenge. You can only fall off the battle stage or be killed for the competition to end. This will continue until the last person from a sect is eliminated. The first 3 sects to be eliminated will be the last 3 and will not have the chance to participate in this year's treasure-fixing assembly. The Saint Realm Elder explained again, making many people clench their fists. No matter what, they couldn't become the last 3, otherwise, their own sect wouldn't even have the qualifications to participate in the treasure-fixing assembly. How shameful would that be? In the end, there will only be one sect left with people. The sect that perseveres to the end will receive a reward. The reward this time is the Royal Domain Pill, 7 Royal Domain Pills. As soon as he said that, the scene was in an uproar. What? The reward this time is so generous? It's actually the Royal Domain Pill and there are 7 of them. What a great deal. Many people exclaimed. Lu Ming's eyes were burning with passion. As the name suggested, the Royal Domain Pill was made with the Royal Domain Fruit as the main ingredient. It was said that one Royal Domain Pill required 9 Royal Domain Fruits in addition to other precious materials. A Royal Fruit could help a low-level Royal break through 1 level of cultivation. A Royal Domain Pill could allow a mid-tier or even a high-tier Royal to break through 1 level of cultivation. How precious was this? To mid-rank Emperor-level experts like them, it was a fatal attraction. This was especially so for Lu Ming. It was too difficult for him to improve his Chaos Domain. However, if he had the Royal Domain Pill, it would greatly reduce the time he needed to break through. The most important thing is that Saint weapons are not allowed in this competition. Anyone who uses a Saint weapon will be killed without mercy. Alright, that's all for the rules. Let's begin. The Sage Realm Elder of the Heavenly God sect announced. Then he turned around and returned to a pavilion. Alright, since my deity sect is standing on the first platform, then my deity sect will be the first to send out a person to fight. Well, use the brick to lead the jade. On the first platform, a white-robed young man spoke. Obviously, this person was the leader of the Heavenly God sect. Every sect would arrange a team leader to be in charge of adjusting the tactics at any time. The white-robed young man then pointed to a young man and said, "You can go up and act according to the plan." Yes. The young man nodded and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He took a step forward and appeared on the fighting ring. The man looked around and finally fixed his eyes on the 10th platform and the people of Dragon God Valley. You come down and accept your death. The young man from the Tianxin sect pointed at a young man in the LV4 martial royal realm from the Dragon God Valley. He was indeed challenging Dragon God Valley. Everyone's heart moved. Dragon God Valley and Tianxin sect had always been at odds with each other. In addition to the incident with Lu Ming and the others, it was inevitable that Tianxin sect would target Dragon God Valley. I'm not afraid of you, let's go, the young man from the Dragon God Valley said. He took a step forward and rushed to the fighting ring. The two of them stood opposite each other. Kill. Kill. Almost at the same time, the two of them charged at each other and their palms slammed together. Bang. The young man from the Dragon God Valley was shocked. He retreated and spat out a mouthful of blood. Not good. The opponent is at the peak of the 5th level martial monarch realm. Damn it. Someone from the Dragon God Valley roared. Kill. The young man from the Tianxin sect gained the upper hand in one move. He took a step forward and rushed toward the young man from the Dragon God Valley like a white lightning. A spear of divine punishment appeared and stabbed toward the young man from the Dragon God Valley at an amazing speed. Retreat. The young man from Dragon God Valley retreated. He had realized that he was no match for the young man. He could only save his life by retreating from the fighting ring. You can't escape, die. The young man from the Heaven God sect had a cold look in his eyes. Holy light burst out from his body, and the speed of the spear of divine punishment suddenly increased. Puchi. The spear of divine punishment pierced through the youth's dantian and nailed him to the fighting ring. Then the spear flicked the body of the youth from Dragon God Valley off the fighting ring. His storage ring had been taken away by his opponent. You're really a piece of trash. The young man from the Heavenly God sect sneered and returned to the first platform. Detestable. Someone from Dragon God Valley growled. Immediately, someone went down and carried the body of the youth from Dragon God Valley away. Dragon God Valley, this is just the beginning. Next, you will all die on this fighting stage. The leader of the Heavenly God sect said coldly. Just wait and see. Han Sun's eyes were cold as he snorted. On the first platform, Tianxin sect's challenge had ended. Next up was the second platform's Tianyu demon sect. A young man from the Tianyu demonic sect stepped onto the fighting ring. His cold eyes fell on the disciples of Dragon God Valley. You get down here. The young man from the Tianyu demonic sect pointed at a LV4 martial emperor realm young man from Dragon God Valley. The Tianyu demon sect is challenging us too? It seems that the Tianxin sect and the Tianyu demon sect have joined forces to deliberately target our Dragon God Valley. This guy's cultivation is also at the 5th level of the martial royal realm, but he's challenging us, who are at the 4th level. Someone in the Dragon God Valley said in a serious voice. Bus. The young man from Dragon God Valley jumped onto the fighting ring and stared at his opponent with a serious look. Kill. The young man from the Tianyu demon sect shouted and rushed toward the young man from the Dragon God Valley. The aura of the peak LV5 martial royal realm exploded. The young man from Dragon God Valley didn't dare to take it head-on, so he rushed to the side. You can't escape, phantom steps. The young man from the Tianyu demonic sect appeared in front of the young man from the Dragon God Valley in the next moment. He unsheathed his demonic saber, and demonic chi filled the air. Brr. The young man from Dragon God Valley let out an angry roar and used all his strength to attack his opponent. However, the difference in cultivation was too great. It was an entire level. Moreover, it was obvious that the other party had planned this. The young men they sent out were all very powerful. Chapter 1526. 1526 Lu Ming's Plan, Splitting Devil Blade. The young man from the Tianyu demonic sect slashed out with his demonic blade, and the terrifying blade light seemed to be able to split everything. Puchi. The young man from Dragon God Valley was cut in half. Dragon God Valley had lost another person. This was just the beginning and 2 people had already been killed. Detestable. Many young men from Dragon God Valley growled and clenched their hands. Then, someone went up and carried the body of the young man from Dragon God Valley. The young man from the Tianyu demonic sect left the fighting ring. Next, it was the third platform's turn. The Heaven Seek King issued a challenge. The Heaven Seek King sent out a 4th level martial royal realm Heaven's favorite to challenge a 4th level martial royal realm Heaven's favorite from the Intentionless Saber sect. The two of them were evenly matched. After exchanging more than 100 moves, The Heaven Seek King's Heaven's favorite was slightly better and blasted the intentionless Saber Sect's Heaven's favorite off the fighting ring. Next, the fourth platform, the Evil Moon Sect, began their challenge. The Evil Moon Sect had directly sent a 5th-level martial emperor to challenge a 4th-level martial emperor from the Piyuan family and killed him. These two forces originally had enmity, and now both sides were truly angered. Following that, it was the 5th platform where the Yudu sect issued a challenge. A young man from the Yudu sect leaped onto the fighting stage and his gaze fell directly on the Dragon God Valley side. "You come down." The young man from the Yudu sect pointed at a youth from the Dragon God Valley who was at the LV4 Martial Emperor realm. Many people in the Dragon God Valley looked terrible. Then he challenged Dragon God Valley. The young man from Dragon God Valley went up to the fighting ring with an ugly expression, then quickly retreated. The other party was also a LV5 Martial Royal Realm expert. The young man from Dragon God Valley knew that he was no match for him, so he could only escape first. Unfortunately, the young man from the Yudu sect was very powerful. He had shrouded the fighting ring with poisonous gas and poisoned the young man from Dragon God Valley to death. Another person died in Dragon God Valley. Hee hee. Sneers could be heard coming from the Heavenly God sect. Many young men from the Tianxin sect, the Tianyu demonic sect, and the Yudu sect looked at the Dragon God Valley sect with hostility. Dragon God Valley is in trouble. Obviously, the Tianxin sect, the Tianyu demon sect, and the Yudu sect are joining forces to deal with Dragon God Valley. That's right. If the 3 clans join forces to challenge one clan, Dragon God Valley will most likely be in trouble. I'm afraid it will be difficult for them to enter the top 10. Moreover, I don't know how many people will be killed. At this rate, not many people from Dragon God Valley will survive. Many people from the various sects were discussing. Damn it. Many of the young men from Dragon God Valley roared in anger. There were even dragon roars and their bodies were full of murderous intent. The Dragon God Valley disciples on the platform and in the stands behind were all furious. This is too much. Counterattack. We must counterattack. When it's our turn, we must fight back. Many people's true yuan burst out, revealing cold killing intent. It's all because of Lu Ming and the others. They're the ones who provoked the 3 major sects, the Deity sect, the Tianyu demon sect, and the Yudu sect. Otherwise, how could our Dragon God Valley be targeted? A cold voice was heard among the people of Dragon God Valley. You. Lu Ming's gaze turned slightly cold. That's right. It's all because of Lu Ming and the others that our Dragon God Valley has fallen into such a desperate situation. Lu Ming and the other 2 have to take full responsibility. Such people should have been driven out of Dragon God Valley a long time ago. Otherwise, how could today's matter have happened? Blizzard Silver City also coldly spoke. Shut up. We should be thinking of a way to fight back, not an internal conflict. Han Sun coldly rebuked. Yu and Yinxing were afraid of Han Sun, so they just sneered but didn't say anything. This won't do. If this goes on, I might be in danger too. I must think of a way to save myself. His eyes turned as thoughts ran through his mind. The competition continued. The 6th platform, Jiuxiao Sword Sect. The swordsman of Jiuxiao Sword Sect glanced at Dragon God Valley. In the end, he did not challenge Dragon God Valley, but chose the Blood Demon Tower. The 7th platform, the 8th platform. One by one. Soon, it was the 10th platform's turn for the Dragon God Valley challenge. The Dragon God Valley could finally launch a counterattack. Han Sun was preparing to send an expert to kill one of the disciples of the Tianxin sect to restore some morale. However, at that moment, a figure suddenly rushed out and landed on the platform. Was He Yu? He Yu, what are you doing? Han Sun roared. Before he could make any arrangements, He Yu had already rushed out. Moreover, He Yu was only at LV4 Martial Emperor realm. What was the point of rushing out? He Yu sneered but did not say anything. He didn't want to sit and wait for his death. He was a LV4 Martial Royal Realm martial artist. If he stayed on the platform, he would most likely be chosen by the Deity sect, the Sky Demon sect, and the Yudu sect in the next round of challenges. He didn't want to die. His gaze shifted and landed on the 13th platform where the demon castle was. Brother, how about we have a spar? He Yu looked at a young man from the monster castle. Damn it, why did He Yu challenge the monster castle? The demon castle has a good relationship with Dragon God Valley. Some disciples of Dragon God Valley growled. The young man from Demon Castle was also slightly stunned. He didn't expect He Yu to challenge him. Everyone thought that Dragon God Valley would fight back and send experts to challenge the people of Deity Sect, Sky Demon Sect, or Yudu Sect. The young man from the Demon Castle stepped onto the fighting ring and began his battle with He Yu. The young man from the demon fort had a similar combat strength to Hiyu. After dozens of moves, Hiyu was at a disadvantage and was blasted off the fighting ring. Hihi, you're afraid of death. Lu Ming said indifferently. The other people of Dragon God Valley also looked angry. Everyone could tell that Hiyu was afraid of death. He was afraid of being challenged by the three sects if he stayed on the platform. Therefore, he went up to challenge the Demon Castle, which had a good relationship with Dragon God Valley. Moreover, in a situation where the two of them were about the same strength, Hiyu was defeated after dozens of moves. It was obvious that he had lost on purpose. In this way, he who had lost would be considered eliminated. Naturally, he would not be challenged by the other sections. I think junior brother Hiyu is right. Why should he be responsible for the mistakes of others? Blizzard Silver City said coldly. He even cast a cold glance at Lu Ming. His words made the eyes of some of the Dragon God Valley disciples light up. All right, all of you shut up. Han Sun shouted coldly. He was extremely angry. As the leader of the Dragon God Valley team, he felt helpless in such a situation. At this moment, Lu Ming stepped forward and stood in front of Han Sun. Senior brother Han Sun, Lu Ming has a plan to avenge Dragon God Valley. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, "What's your plan?" Han Sun's eyes lit up. On the side, the other people of Dragon God Valley also looked over curiously. Immediately, Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Han Sun and told him about his plan. Junior brother Lu, are you confident? Han Sun said with a serious expression. I'm sure. This is the only way for Dragon God Valley to counterattack. It's the only way to minimize our losses. Lu Ming said. Chapter 1527. 1527 Challenging Lu Ming. Han Sun frowned, pondered for a moment and then nodded. Alright, let's do that. Han Sun's eyes became extremely serious as he glanced at all the disciples of Dragon God Valley on the platform and said, in the following matches, everyone has to listen to my arrangements. If anyone acts like Hiyu and makes decisions on their own, they will be punished according to the sect rules. Don't blame me for not showing any mercy. Yes, senior brother. Many people's hearts trembled and they nodded in agreement. Senior brother, what is the plan? Why don't you tell us? Blizzard Silver City coldly said. You'll know when the time comes. Now you just have to follow the arrangements. Han Sun's eyes swept across the Silver Blizzard City with a trace of coldness. Blizzard Silver City's face slightly sank, but he didn't say anything. You lost. Instead of returning to the platform, he went to the stands behind the platform and the competition continued. Platform number 11, platform number 12, platform number 13. When the Demon Castle challenge on platform number 13 ended, the first round of challenges officially ended. In the first round, the true experts did not make a move. Most of the people sent out were not very strong. Only Dragon God Valley suffered heavy losses as they were targeted by the three major sections. In one round, 3 died and 1 was defeated, losing 4 people. As for the Heaven God sect and the Life and Death Sword sect, no one had challenged them. Currently in the Tsang region, the Tianshan sect had a faint trend of being the number 1. Their strength was formidable and the other sects had some apprehensions. Although the Life and Death Sword sect had a small number of people, their individual strength was extremely shocking. Every disciple of the Life and Death Sword sect could not be underestimated. Moreover, the Life and Death Sword sect's Life and Death Sword art would decide life and death every time it was used. It was a killing technique and no one would not be afraid of it. After the first round, there were a few sects that did not suffer any losses, such as the Deity sect, the Sky Demon sect, the Desire Poison sect, and the Life and Death Sword sect. The first round had ended and the second round was coming up. In the second round, the first platform was once again used. The Heaven God sect began to send people to challenge. There was no doubt that the Tianshan sect had sent another expert to challenge a weaker disciple of the Dragon God Valley and killed him in the fighting ring. Then the Tianyu demonic sect used the same trick and killed another person from Dragon God Valley. When it was the Yu-Du sect's turn, he would kill one person from Dragon God Valley. The atmosphere in the Dragon God Valley was getting more and more depressing. It seems that Dragon God Valley will be the first one to be eliminated. That's right, and many of them will be killed. Many of the Heaven's Pride experts in this batch will die. It's a great loss. The surrounding cultivators from the other sects began to shake their heads and sigh. The challenges continued. One by one it was Dragon God Valley's turn. Wang Fei, you go. Don't challenge the Deity sect, the Sky Demon sect, or the Desire Poison sect. You can choose any of the other sections. Pick one that's about as strong as you. Treat it as training. Han Sun pointed at a young man. Choose Wang Fei. The other people of Dragon God Valley looked at Han Sun in surprise. Now, wasn't it their turn to counterattack? Shouldn't they send out an expert to kill one of the experts from the Heavenly Divine Sect? Why did they send Wang Fei? Wang Fei's cultivation was only at the 4th level of the martial royal realm. He was considered weak among the remaining people of Dragon God Valley. Moreover, he was not allowed to challenge the 3 major sects of the Tianxin sect. The others were very surprised. Wang Fei himself was also stunned. Go. Han Sun spoke again. Yes. Wang Fei nodded and flew up to the fighting ring. He chose someone from the intentionless saber sect whose cultivation was similar to Wang Fei's. The two of them fought intensely. After exchanging more than 100 moves, Wang Fei was thrown off the fighting ring. Dragon God Valley? What does that mean? I don't understand. It's finally my turn, but instead of sending an expert to fight back, they sent a weakling to challenge the other sections. I really don't understand what Dragon God Valley is trying to do. It's simple. Dragon God Valley was forced to give up the opportunity to fight back and protect the weaker disciples. Otherwise they would be killed by the 3 major sects. Yes, that's true. Many people discussed and understood Dragon God Valley's approach. In this way, at least some people in Dragon God Valley could be saved. It's really sad to use this method. Then eliminate Dragon God Valley first so that they can't even participate in the treasure-fixing assembly. The leader of the Heavenly God sect sneered. Ah, that's right. This time, I heard that Dragon God Valley is well prepared and wants to win first place in the treasure-fixing assembly. I wonder what kind of scene it will be if they can't even participate in the treasure-fixing assembly? On the grandstand, some of the Heaven's Pride experts of the Tianxin sect who were at the LV7 martial royal realm and above laughed mockingly. On the grandstand of Dragon God Valley, some geniuses above the 7th level of the martial royal realm looked gloomy and ugly. On the 10th platform, Lu Ming was the only one with a calm expression. Just wait, the counterattack will begin soon. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. The competition continued and soon the second round was over. Dragon God Valley was still the most miserable sect, with 3 deaths and 1 defeat. After 2 rounds, 6 people had died and 2 had failed. Of the 36 people, only 28 remained. The 3rd round began. Just like the last time, the Tianxin sect, the Tianyu demon sect, and the Yudu sect all sent their experts to challenge the weak ones of the Dragon God Valley. They came prepared. Although the youth of the Dragon God Valley rushed down from the fighting stage the moment he made his move, the person sent by his opponent was much stronger than them. With a killing intent, he killed 3 more people from the Dragon God Valley. When it was Dragon God Valley's turn, Han Sun sent a weak disciple to challenge other sections. He was defeated after a few rounds, but he managed to survive. Soon the 3rd round was over. In Dragon God Valley, 9 people were killed and 3 were defeated. A total of 12 people were eliminated. At this point, the 4th level martial emperors of Dragon God Valley were either dead or defeated. Lu Ming was the only one who was still at the 4th level. Everyone in the Dragon God Valley looked terrible and the atmosphere was heavy. Arg. Damn it, Han Sun, why didn't we send out experts to counterattack? Next round, send me. I want to kill these sons of bitches. Tian Shui brandished his huge hammer, constantly roaring in anger, extremely anxious. Lu Ming and Han Sun's faces were cold and they did not say a word. Xuaningxing cast a glance at Lu Ming, deep in thought. Next, the 4th round began. It was still the Tianxin sect's turn to issue a challenge. Buzz. On the first platform, a figure leaped onto the fighting ring. Boom. A powerful aura burst out from this person. 6th level martial emperor realm. The Tianxin sect began to send out their LV6 martial royal realm experts because almost all the remaining people in Dragon God Valley were above the LV5 martial royal realm. The man had an arrogant look on his face. He swept his gaze across the room and eventually fixed it on Lu Ming. He sneered, "Lu Ming, get down here and accept your death." "You're challenging me?" Lu Ming's eyes lit up. "Lu Ming, kill this bastard." Tian Shui roared. "Don't worry," Lu Ming said. He took a step forward and appeared on the fighting ring. "Lu Ming, you're really audacious. You've killed the people of my Tianxin sect time and time again." The young man from the Heavenly God sect glared at Lu Ming coldly. He did not even bother to hide his cold killing intent. Chapter 1528, 1528 Chapter 1528 One punch. Very soon, the number of people from the Heavenly God sect who will die by my hands will increase by 1. Lu Ming said coldly. Haha, what a joke. Lu Ming, I know you're quite powerful, but you're mostly relying on your holy weapon. Now that you can't use your holy weapon, how much power can you unleash? I'm a LV6 Martial Emperor, so killing you will be as easy as turning my hand. The young man from the Heavenly God sect laughed out loud. The aura on his body was getting stronger and stronger, more and more shocking. Without a doubt, this young man from the Tianxin sect was definitely a powerful Heaven's Pride expert. He had cultivated a medium-grade earth spiritual body and was extremely powerful. Among the many Heaven's Pride experts in the Tianxin sect, he was also at the top. His talent was not inferior to Shi Tian. With his combat strength, it was a piece of cake for him to fight someone of a higher level. Moreover, Lu Ming was only at the 4th level of the Martial Emperor realm. He was 120% confident that he could kill Lu Ming without using his holy weapon. Nonsense. Use your full strength, Lu Ming said indifferently. Since you're in a hurry to die, he'll send you on your way. Kill. The paragon of the Tianxin sect burst out with dazzling holy light. A spear of divine punishment condensed in his palm. The spear of divine punishment pierced through the void and stabbed toward Lu Ming. The terrifying sharpness whistled between heaven and earth, as if it could penetrate everything in the world. The paragon of the Tianxin sect had used a killing move as soon as he made his move. He wanted to kill Lu Ming in one move. A dragon's roar came from Lu Ming's body. Then he wrapped his fist in the chaos domain and threw a punch. The prison-suppressing heavenly art was unleashed. This punch was aimed at the opponent's spear of God punishment. How dare you use your fist against my spear of God's punishment? You're courting death. Break. The Heaven Deity sect's paragon shouted coldly. On the platform, many of the people from the Heavenly God sect sneered. However, the next moment, their sneers froze on their faces. Boom. Lu Ming's fist landed on the spear of God's punishment, which exploded instantly. Lu Ming's fist, like a piece of rotten wood, smashed towards his opponent. No, no! The other party's pupils enlarged and he shouted in fear. He had thought that he could kill Lu Ming in one move and had not even set up any defense. It was too late to do so now. Bang! Lu Ming's fist landed on the young man from the deity sect. His body exploded into pieces. He was dead. The Heaven's Pride of the Tianxin sect, a LV6 Martial Royal Realm expert, was killed by Lu Ming with one punch. You're just a piece of trash, Lu Ming said disdainfully. He stretched out his hand and sucked the storage ring of the genius of the deity sect into his hand. Good kill. Tian Shui excitedly shouted. Good kill, you should be killed. The other disciples of Dragon God Valley shouted one after another. Their faces were red with excitement. The anger in their chest was finally relieved. After the challenge, they had finally killed a person from the Tianxin sect. Moreover, he was a 6th-level Martial Royal Realm expert who had cultivated a medium earth spiritual body. They had finally vented their anger. Damn it, it's this Lu Ming again. On the side of the Heavenly Divine sect, many people were furious. Leave this Lu Ming to me. I want him to die an ugly death. Lu Quan was just careless just now. Leave Lu Ming to me. The other Heaven's favorites from the Heavenly God sect roared. Alright, I'll be waiting. All of you come and challenge me. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the Heaven Deity sect with an extremely cold gaze. Then he swept his gaze over the Tianyu Demon sect and the Yudu sect. Let's just wait and see. The counterattack of Dragon God Valley was about to begin. Lu Ming moved and returned to the fighting ring. Let's continue. The leader of the Tianxin sect shouted as he looked at the Tianyu demonic sect. Don't worry. The outcome of Dragon God Valley is already decided. The leader of the Tianyu demonic sect sneered and sent an expert to challenge a LV5 Martial Royal Realm expert from Dragon God Valley. The 5th-level Martial Royal Realm Heaven's favorite of Dragon God Valley was also very powerful. He tried his best to rush down the fighting ring, but he was almost killed by his opponent at the edge of the fighting ring. Then it was the Yudu sect's turn. Dragon God Valley had another person killed. One by one the sects took their turn. On the 8th platform, the Life and Death Sword sect issued a challenge. Until now, the Life and Death Sword sect had not lost a single person. But a sword light flashed and a figure appeared on the fighting ring. This person was someone Lu Ming had met in the Emperor Tsang's secret realm, Luo Xiang. Luo Xiang's eyes turned and finally landed on the platform of the Tianxin sect. He looked at a man at the 6th level of the Martial Royal Realm and said, "You fight me." Many people's hearts moved. The Life and Death Sword sect was actually challenging the Heavenly Divine sect. The Heaven's Pride expert of the Heaven God sect who was challenged stepped onto the fighting ring with a slightly gloomy face. Make your move. He sized up Luo Xiang and said, "You attack first or you won't have a chance." Luo Xiang said indifferently, "Arrogant, let's see what you can do, die." The heaven god sect's paragon shouted coldly. The spear of divine punishment appeared and pierced towards Luo Xiang. Buzz! A sword light flashed from Luo Xiang's hand. Fast, it was too fast. Almost no one could see how Luo Xiang had attacked. The sword light flashed in the void. In the next moment, Luo Xiang's sword returned to its sheath. "You," the heaven's pride expert of the heavenly god sect widened his eyes and stared at Luo Xiang unwillingly. Then his body was split into two. He was dead. A 6th-level martial royal realm heaven's favorite of the heavenly god sect had been killed by Luo Xiang with a single sword strike. So powerful. Is this the sword technique of the life and death sword sect? It's so terrifying. That Luo Xiang is only at LV5 martial emperor realm. Many people exclaimed in admiration, and even more people felt chills all over their bodies. How could he dodge such a sword? This Luo Xiang is indeed not simple. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with surprise. He had heard that Luo Xiang had been cultivating his sword soul for 15 years at Jizuan Realm Pinnacle, but he hadn't made a breakthrough. Such a person was extremely terrifying. Now, Luo Xiang had made a breakthrough and obtained the inheritance of sword principle in the Great Emperor's secret realm. He had truly soared to the sky. In a short period of time, his cultivation had soared to the LV5 martial royal realm, and he had even killed a heaven's favorite of the Tianxin sect with one strike. Such a person would become more and more terrifying the longer it took him to break through to the martial emperor realm. Back in Emperor Tsang's secret realm, Luo Xiang had just broken through to the martial royal realm and his potential had yet to be unleashed. Now he was truly terrifying. "Luo Xiang, my heavenly god sect has never offended your life and death sword sect. Why did you kill my people?" The leader of the heavenly god sect asked with a cold face. "It's simple, I don't like the sight of you guys." Luo Xiang said indifferently, then stepped out and returned to the platform of the life and death sword sect. Good kill, I'm starting to like this Luo Xiang." Tian Shui grinned. The competition continued, and when it was Dragon God Valley's turn, Han Sun sent out the person with the lowest cultivation to challenge the other sect's geniuses, and was defeated. Soon the 4th round was over. In this round, Dragon God Valley had 2 deaths, 1 defeat and 1 victory. There were still 21 people left. However, the people from Dragon God Valley were getting stronger and stronger. As expected, from the 5th round onwards, Dragon God Valley was no longer being killed blindly. They had the power to resist. Chapter 1529, 1529 Chapter 1529 Slaying another heaven's favorite from the 5th round onwards, the survival rate of the Dragon God Valley team was getting higher and higher. Although the Tianxin sect, the Tianyu demonic sect, and the Yudu sect still sent out their experts to challenge the weak ones of the Dragon God Valley, it had become difficult to kill the elites of the Dragon God Valley. In the 5th round, one person successfully rushed off the fighting stage and saved his life. The other 2 almost rushed off the fighting stage but they were still killed. In this round, 2 people from Dragon God Valley died and 2 were defeated. There were 17 people left. No one challenged Lu Ming in this round. It seemed that they were not confident and wanted to challenge him later. In the 6th round, although Dragon God Valley was still completely defeated, all of them managed to keep their lives. Although the 3 sides of the Tianxin sect wanted to kill the people of Dragon God Valley, they were all pushed off the fighting stage by them. The atmosphere in the Dragon God Valley was finally a little better. After this round, there were only 13 people left from Dragon God Valley. Apart from the Life and Death Sword sect, the Dragon God Valley sect had the least number of people. It had only been 6 rounds and many of the other sects still had around 30 people left. Some even had 20 or so people, close to 30. As for the Tianxin sect and the Tianyu demonic sect, they only had around 30 people left. Their losses were very small. Then 2 more rounds passed. There were only 5 people left on the side of Dragon God Valley. They were Lu Ming, Han Sun, Tian Shui, Xuanixin, and another person named Ziyu. After so many rounds, no one had challenged Tian Shui or Xuanixin. In the battle 10 days ago, Tian Shui and Xuanixin had revealed their terrifying combat strength. To be able to fight against heaven's favorites like Mo He and Wu Qiandu, their combat strength was undoubtedly extremely strong. It was normal that they had not been challenged before. By now 8 rounds had passed. From the 9th round onwards, the faces of the people from the Heaven Deity sect started to turn ugly. None of the remaining 5 people from Dragon God Valley were weak. They did not know who to challenge. I'm going to kill Lu Ming. A young man at the 6th level of the martial royal realm stepped out and flew up to the fighting ring. Lu Ming, come out. The young man at the peak of the 6th level martial royal realm of the Divine Sky sect condensed a spear of divine punishment in his hand and pointed it at Lu Ming. Just what I wanted. Lu Ming smiled coldly. He took a step forward and landed on the fighting ring. Bus, bus, bus. Light curtains appeared around the paragon of the Tianxin sect, and even an emperor's spiritual weapon armor appeared. It was obvious that this person had learned his lesson and had set up layers of defense on himself from the beginning. I'm a lot more careful, but I still have to die. Lu Ming said. You're the one who's going to die. Kill. Die. The Heaven God Sect's paragon shouted. He took a step forward and turned into a beam of holy light, rushing toward Lu Ming. Whoosh. The spear of divine punishment streaked across the sky, making a terrifying whistling sound. Boom. Lu Ming threw a punch and it collided with the spear of divine punishment. There was a huge explosion. Lu Ming did not move, but the other party retreated a few steps. Your combat strength is only SOSO. Lu Ming smiled faintly. I'm not done yet. You're courting death. The other party shouted angrily. A milky white book flew out from his brow. This book was an emperor's spiritual weapon. As the book was flipped open, rays of white light flew out and landed on the Heaven God Sect's paragon. The aura of the Heaven God Sect's paragon became stronger. A real milky white spear appeared in his hand. He thrust the spear forward, and the power this time was much stronger than the last time. Boom. Boom. Lu Ming threw a few punches in succession. The terrifying fist force traversed the void and blasted toward the other party. His opponent's long spear continued to thrust out, turning into terrifying spears of divine punishment. They collided with Lu Ming's fist force, causing a terrible boom to erupt on the fighting ring. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 10 moves. That Lu Ming is so powerful. He's at the peak of the 4th level martial royal realm, but he can fight against a heaven's favorite at the peak of the 6th level martial royal realm. It's indeed terrifying. However, Lu Ming's cultivation is 2 whole levels lower. In my opinion, he'll definitely lose. Not necessarily. The person from the deity sect has a medium-grade earth spiritual body, while Lu Ming obviously has a superior-grade earth spiritual body. The surrounding crowd discussed. Die, die. The combat strength of the prodigy of the Tianxin sect was getting more and more violent. He kept pouring his attacks on Lu Ming. Has this reached your limit? Then let's end this. Lu Ming said coldly. Boom. Lu Ming's fist momentum seemed to be able to penetrate the void. In an instant, it shattered the spears of God's punishment that were thrust out by the prodigies of the Tianxin sect. Bang. Following that, Lu Ming took a step forward and threw a punch that destroyed everything. He landed a heavy blow on the other party's chest. His energy surged and broke through several layers of the other party's defense in a row. It then landed on the other party's armor. The armor shook and the Heaven's God Sect's paragon was sent flying. He slid on the fighting stage for a long distance and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Earlier on, Lu Ming did not use his full strength at all. At this moment, Lu Ming was using his full strength. Although the other party's cultivation was 2 levels higher than his, Lu Ming's spirit body and chaos domain were much more powerful than the other party's spirit body and chaos domain. He could completely make up for the gap between the 2 levels of cultivation. The Heaven Deity Sect's paragon was shocked and furious. He did not expect Lu Ming to be so powerful. Die. Lu Ming took a step forward and approached the other party at a high speed. I have an Emperor spiritual weapon to protect me. You can't kill me. The Heaven God Sect's paragon let out a long cry and retreated rapidly. Is that so? Lu Ming sneered. An Emperor spiritual weapon spear appeared in his hand. Whoosh. The long spear pierced towards the other party. 13 charged strikes. The terrifying spear radiance destroyed the opponent's counterattack and stabbed into the opponent's armor. It's useless, the other party shouted, but in the next moment his expression changed drastically and there was only fear. The tip of Lu Ming's long spear had 13 layers of attack power. They stacked and exploded in an instant, erupting with a terrifying penetrating power. The fearsome penetrative force pierced through the opponent's Emperor spiritual weapon armor, and the long spear pierced through the opponent's heart. Buzz. Then, with a shake of the spear, the land of destruction erupted. The spiritual god of the other party disappeared before it could escape. The Heaven's God Sect's paragon was dead. CSI. Gasps could be heard at the scene. A Heaven's favorite at the peak of the 6th level martial royal realm who had cultivated a medium-grade earth spiritual body was killed by Lu Ming. The prodigy of the Tianxin sect wanted to kill Lu Ming, but he was killed by Lu Ming again. This kind of Heaven's Pride expert was the peak existence even among all the people who participated in this time's treasure auction, except for those top Heaven's Pride experts who cultivated superior Earth spiritual bodies. However, a superior Earth spiritual body was extremely rare. There were not many of them in the entire Azure region. Each of the 13 top sects participating in the party had at most 1 or 2 disciples. Some of the sects didn't even have one. It could be said that Lu Ming's combat strength was already at the peak among the participants of the treasure auction. Many people were guessing whether Lu Ming could compete with those who had superior Earth spiritual bodies and were at the peak of the 6th level martial royal realm. Chapter 1530, 1530 The counterattack begins. Good kill. Tian Shui was naturally incomparably excited. It was the same for the people of Dragon God Valley. Up until now, the Tianxin sect had lost 3 6th level martial royal realm geniuses. Lu Ming had killed 2 and Luo Xiang had killed 1. Damn it, this Lu Ming, damn it. Someone in the Heavenly Divine sect shouted angrily. There were not many Heaven's favorites with medium-grade Earth spiritual body in the Tianxin sect. Now Lu Ming had killed several of them. It was a great loss. Lu Ming kept his spoils of war and returned to the platform. Next, it was the Tianyu demonic sect's turn to challenge. I'll do it. A person from the Tianyu demonic sect stepped out. It's him, Mo He. Mo He is going to personally take action. Who will he challenge? Many people were shocked. Mo He was the top genius of the Tianyu demon sect. He had an upper-class Earth spiritual body and was at the peak of LV6 martial royal realm. He had the potential to become one of the top 10 geniuses of the Azure continent. He was definitely powerful. The top 10 geniuses of the Azure region all had superior Earth spiritual bodies. In theory, as long as one successfully cultivated a superior Earth spiritual body, they all had the hope of breaking through to the top 10 geniuses. Of course, there was only hope. Even if they had the same high-grade Earth spiritual body, their combat strength would still be different. For example, the strength of a domain martial technique, one's own battle consciousness, various secret skills, and so on all determine the strength of one's combat power. Mo He's eyes fell directly on the 5 people of Dragon God Valley. He glanced at them and finally stopped at Ziyu. I knew it. He wants to challenge me. Ziyu laughed. Ziyu, if you can't defeat him, get off the fighting stage. It's more important to save your life. Han Sun warned. Although Ziyu's combat strength was very strong, he did not have a superior Earth spiritual body. He was probably not Mo He's match. I know, don't worry. Ziyu stepped onto the battle stage. Without any unnecessary words, a great battle erupted. Ziyu was a Heaven's favorite of the Purple Dragon Valley. He had cultivated the Purple Dragon combat body, which was a medium-grade Earth spiritual body. His territory had reached the peak of level 7, and his territory martial technique had been perfected. His combat power was extremely amazing. Although his spiritual body was not as good as Mo He's, his combat strength was not much different. It was impossible for Mo He to kill Ziyu in a short period of time. The two of them exchanged nearly 100 moves. In the end, Ziyu was no match for him and was thrown off the fighting ring. Ziyu had failed, and there were only 4 people left from Dragon God Valley. The challenges continued, and soon it was the Yu-Du sect's turn. The leader of the Yu-Du sect looked at the 4 people from Dragon God Valley and hesitated. None of the 4 remaining people from Dragon God Valley were simple. If they wanted to send someone to fight, they could only send someone with a superior Earth spiritual body, who was at the peak of the 6th level martial royal realm. Moreover, they would not be able to kill Lu Ming and the others. Even if they could defeat one of them, they might be injured, which would be disadvantageous for the subsequent battles. In the end, the Yu-Du sect's team leader sent out a weakling. For the first time, he did not challenge Dragon God Valley, but other sections. The leader of the Heavenly God sect's team had a gloomy expression. However, he also understood that the Tianxin sect, the Tianyu demonic sect, and the Yu-Du sect had joined forces to deal with Dragon God Valley. However, all 3 sects wanted the final victory. If they sent their top Heaven's Pride experts now, it would only cause heavy losses to both sides, which would be extremely disadvantageous for the future battles. After the Yu-Du sect, the Jiuxiao Sword sect went up to challenge. Just like that, it was Dragon God Valley's turn. Cold killing intent flashed through Han Sun's eyes. Now the counterattack begins. Tian Shui, you go. Good, haha, it's finally my turn. Tian Shui laughed out loud. He was already on the verge of exploding from holding back his laughter. Now it was finally his turn. Boom. Tian Shui landed directly on the fighting ring. His eyes fell on a 6th-level martial royal realm young man from the deity sect and he shouted, "You, come down and accept your death. I'm not afraid of you." The young man from the heavenly god sect jumped onto the fighting stage. As soon as he stepped onto the fighting stage, he immediately launched an attack at Tian Shui. "Go to hell." Tian Shui roared like a mad tyrant dragon. He raised his giant hammer and smashed it towards his opponent, completely ignoring his opponent's attack and defense. Boom. With a violent tremor, the young man from the heaven god sect screamed and was smashed into a pile of meat paste by Tian Shui. "Die, die." Tian Shui roared. His water tank-like hammer danced in the air, causing the void to rumble. His eyes were filled with malevolent killing intent. Good kill." The disciples of Dragon God Valley shouted in joy. Han Sun and Lu Ming both sneered. The counterattack of the Dragon God Valley was finally about to begin. This was Lu Ming's plan. First, protect the people, then counterattack. This way, the lives of the disciples of Dragon God Valley could be preserved as much as possible, and the most powerful one would be left. In the beginning, many people were killed because there was no other way. If they didn't do this, those disciples with weak cultivation would all die. Not a single one would be left alive. To save the counterattack for the last time, he could try to preserve the lives of the Dragon God Valley disciples. The disciples of the Heavenly God sect gritted their teeth and were furious. The people from the other sects seemed to have thought of something. Tian Shui returned to the platform. After that, he continued with 3 more rounds. With this round over, the 10th round began. It was the turn of the Tianxin sect to challenge again. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on the Tianxin sect. How would the Heavenly Divine sect fight? Should he continue to challenge Dragon God Valley? Who would they send? At this moment, the leader of the Heavenly God sect looked gloomy and hesitant. He had encountered a difficult problem. The remaining 4 people of Dragon God Valley had terrifying combat strength. If he were to send someone to challenge them, he would definitely send the most powerful Heaven's Pride expert. Sending the others would only be sending them to their deaths. Moreover, it would not be easy to defeat Lu Ming, Tian Shui, and the others. Even if he could win, he would definitely be injured and his combat strength would be greatly reduced. If a few of the top experts of the Tianxin sect were injured, the top experts of the other sects would definitely not let go of this opportunity and would challenge the top experts of the Tianxin sect. In this way, the top experts of the Tianxin sect would most likely be eliminated. Without a top expert, the Tianxin sect might not even be able to enter the top 10. The Heavenly Divine sect had now fallen into a passive position. The paragons of the other sects had obviously thought of this as well, and they all revealed looks of anticipation. How did this happen? The leader of the Heavenly God sect clenched his fists tightly. Similarly, the team leaders of the Sky Demon sect and the Desire Poison sect were similar. "Hey, are you guys going to challenge me or not? Don't dawdle and waste other people's time," said Lu Ming. He was calm and unruffled, as if he was waiting for the challenge from the deity sect. Lu Ming. Many disciples of the Heavenly God sect gritted their teeth and glared at Lu Ming with hatred. However, they definitely did not dare to challenge Lu Ming. They were just courting death. Brother Wu, Brother Mo. At this moment, the leader of the Heaven God sect transmitted a message to the leaders of the Sky Demon sect and the Desire Poison sect. "Let's put Dragon God Valley aside and eliminate the weakest sects first. Then, concentrate our forces on dealing with Dragon God Valley. What do you think?" "Alright, I agree." The leader of the Tianyu demonic sect replied, and the leader of the Yudu sect nodded. Chapter 1531, 1531 Chapter 1531 Challenging a top-tier powerhouse. The leaders of the 3 major sects, the Tianxin sect, the Tianyu demonic sect, and the Yudu sect, had a discussion. They would first eliminate the weakest sects, then join forces to deal with Lu Ming and the others from the Dragon God Valley. They had no other choice. If they went all out to deal with Lu Ming and the others now, the other sects would likely take advantage of them. In that case, they might not even be able to enter the top 10 and could not participate in this time's treasure-fixing assembly. This was something that they could not accept no matter what. Eliminating the other weakest sects would at least guarantee that they would enter the top 10 and be able to participate in the future treasure-sealing assembly. He would deal with Lu Ming and the rest after he was in the top 10. This was their plan. As expected, the God of Heaven sent a 5th-level martial emperor to challenge a 4th-level martial emperor from the Piyuan family. The Piyuan family was one of the weakest forces. Hee, it seems that the Tianshan sect is afraid. Why don't you dare to challenge my junior brothers of the Dragon God Valley? On the grandstand, a 7th-level martial royal realm heaven's favorite from Dragon God Valley spoke. He looked at the grandstand of Tianshan sect with disdain. Previously they were repeatedly ridiculed by the people of the Tianshan sect, saying that they would definitely not be able to participate in this time's treasure-fixing assembly, which made them extremely sullen. Now they could finally fight back. What's the rush? That's right, the good show is yet to come. The Heaven's Pride experts of the Heavenly God sect who were at the 7th level martial royal realm and above snorted coldly. Han Sun, this is a good plan. An old voice came from a pavilion. It was the Saint Realm Elder of Dragon God Valley. Elder, this is junior brother Lu Ming's idea. Han Sun said as he bowed towards the pavilion. Not bad. Keep up the good work. We must make some sects pay a price. Otherwise, do you really think that Dragon God Valley is easy to bully? The Saint Realm Elder of Dragon God Valley continued. Elder, don't worry. I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. Lu Ming said with a smile. At that moment, the battle had already begun. The Heaven's Pride expert of the Tianshan sect had easily defeated the Heaven's Pride expert of the Piyuan family. Next, it was the Tianyu demonic sect's turn. The Tianyu demonic sect also sent out an expert to challenge the Piyuan family and easily defeated the Piyuan family. When it was the Yudu sect's turn, they would also challenge the Piyuan family. Everyone understood that the 3 major sects of the Heavenly God sect were going to join forces to eliminate the weaker sections. The Piyuan family was helpless. They couldn't even resist. This year there was a gap in the talents of the Piyuan family. They did not even have one upper-class earth spiritual body who had reached the peak of the 6th level martial royal realm. They only had one upper-class earth spiritual body, who was at the 4th level martial royal realm. They could only be targeted and could not fight back. Soon it was Dragon God Valley's turn. This time, Xuaningxin had challenged the deity sect and killed a 6th level martial royal realm heaven's favorite. This made the faces of the people from the deity sect turn even uglier. Previously they had killed the disciples of Dragon God Valley arrogantly, and Dragon God Valley could not fight back. But now the people of the Dragon God Valley were hunting their Tianshan sect. It was difficult for them to fight back. They couldn't say anything and were extremely depressed. In the 11th round, the Tianshan sect, the Tianyu demonic sect, and the Yudu sect would continue to challenge the Piyuan family. When it was Dragon God Valley's turn, it was finally Han Sun's turn. Han Sun also challenged a LV6 martial royal realm expert from the Heavenly God sect. Han Sun had an upper-class earth spiritual body and his cultivation was at the peak of LV6 martial royal realm. He was absolutely powerful. His opponent could not even get off the fighting ring and was easily killed by Han Sun. The Tianshan sect could only endure. They had to endure until 3 sects were eliminated. At that time they would launch a counterattack. In the 12th round, the 3 great sects of the Tianshan sect would continue to challenge the Piyuan family. This was because there were still other sects challenging the Piyuan family. The Piyuan family's number of people was also reduced to a single digit. They were already destined to be eliminated. This round it was finally Lu Ming's turn to challenge. But Lu Ming took a step forward and appeared on the fighting ring. His gaze fell directly on the side of the Tianshan sect. No one was surprised. Now Dragon God Valley would naturally take revenge and kill the people of the Tianshan sect. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the remaining Heaven's God sect's geniuses. Their expressions changed drastically, especially a few 6th level martial royal realm Heaven's geniuses. Their faces turned pale. Finally, Lu Ming's gaze fell on a white-haired young man. You come down and die. Lu Ming said coldly. What? Lu Ming wants to challenge by Mo. The hearts of the surrounding people trembled. There's a good show to watch. Let's bring it up in advance. Indeed, I never expected that Lu Ming would challenge by Mo now. In recent years, the deity sect has produced many geniuses and strong people. It is said that there are 3 upper-class earth spiritual bodies who have reached the peak of the 6th level of the martial royal realm participating in the treasure-settling small meeting. This Mo is one of them. That's right, Mo, he is one of the top experts in this time's treasure auction. Many people were excited. The battle of the peak was about to begin. Junior brother Lu Ming. Han Sun's eyes flickered as well. Lu Ming's move had exceeded his expectations. He had thought that Lu Ming would challenge an ordinary 6th level martial emperor. You want to challenge me? Mo's body gushed out cold killing intent and he said indifferently. Not bad. Lu Ming said. Alright, I wanted to kill you later, but since you're in a hurry to die, he'll send you on your way first. Mo said coldly. He moved and appeared on the fighting ring, standing opposite Lu Ming. Oh really? If I kill you, the Tianxin sect will be heartbroken. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. White essence slash. At this time Bai Mo moved. A snow-white sword light slashed toward Lu Ming at an amazing speed. Before the sword reached him, the sharp intent pierced the air and made a whistling sound. Not everyone in the Tianxin sect cultivated sacred arts. Many people cultivated other arts. Buzz. The Emperor's spiritual weapon spear appeared in Lu Ming's hands. With a shake of the spear, it turned into a spear ray and pierced through the air. The spear radiance and the sword radiance collided, and the dense energy spread in all directions. Lu Ming and Bai Mo were already engaged in a fierce battle. Bai Mo's realm was very special. It was white, and every wisp of white light was a sword chi. With Bai Mo's realm martial technique, the power was very terrifying. The dense sword gleam was aimed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming used 13 accumulated power strikes to fight his opponent. His long spear was like a dragon, sweeping across the void. Each spear contained 13 attacks. The endless sword gleams were crushed by the long spear and dissipated in the air. The two figures crossed each other on the fighting ring, occasionally colliding with each other, making a shocking roar. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 50 moves. Gate of God's seal. In the process of the battle, Lu Ming cast the 9 seals of the Gate of God. 6 sealing gates appeared at once, emitting thousands of rays of light, trying to seal Bai Mo's pupils shrank and he growled, "White God, sword shadow." Bai Mo's body emitted a white light like a sword. In a flash, he rushed out of the 9 seals of the Gate of God. What a wondrous spirit body. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Bai Mo's spirit body should be a kind of sword body which was extremely mysterious. Chapter 1532 Chapter 1532 Killing Bai Mo. It had to be said that the upper-class Earth spiritual body was indeed extremely talented and powerful. Bai Mo's combat strength was absolutely amazing. With his cultivation at the peak of the 6th level martial royal realm, he might be able to kill an expert at the 8th level. White God Sword Formation. After Bai Mo rushed out of the 9 seals of the Gate of God, he growled. His eyes turned completely white and there were strange lines in his eyes. Buzz. In the sky, a dense pattern suddenly appeared, like a huge white array. Following that, white lines also appeared under Lu Ming's feet. It looked like a large array. One from above and one from below, they surrounded Lu Ming. This isn't a formation. It's a secret technique that belongs to the spirit body. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Some powerful spirit bodies would develop some secret skills that belong to the spirit body. To put it bluntly, they were brought over by the bloodline. For example, Lu Ming's devouring power was brought over by the 9 dragons' bloodline. He condensed the dragon god's body and still retained the devouring power. Other bloodlines, after turning into spirit bodies, might also retain some powerful innate secret skills. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Boundless sword chi condensed from the 2 images and poured toward Lu Ming. In all directions, Lu Ming had no way to retreat. Wind elemental technique. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. From the air-frozen bead, a green energy gushed into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming cast the wind element art and his body seemed to turn into a breeze, floating in the void. Lu Ming's body swayed, leaving a trail of afterimages behind him. He flickered among the endless sword chi and dodged the sword chi. However, there were too many sword auras. In such a narrow space, no matter how fast Lu Ming's movement technique was, he could not completely avoid them. Whoosh. An extremely sharp sword chi was aimed at Lu Ming's chest. Lu Ming's body was covered with the chaos realm. It resisted the sword chi and there were sizzling sounds. The sword chi actually pierced through the chaos realm and stabbed Lu Ming's chest. It was not that the chaos realm was not strong. First of all, this kind of sword chi was really terrifying. Secondly, Lu Ming's chaos realm was too low level, only level 4. At least for Bai Mo, his level was too low so he could not defend against it. If it had been a 5th level primal chaos domain, this sword chi would definitely not have been able to break through its defense. However, the primal chaos domain had also greatly weakened the sword chi's power. At that moment, a dragon's roar came from Lu Ming's body, and a layer of dragon scales appeared on his body. Buzz. The sword chi slashed at the dragon scale, causing sparks to fly in all directions. The sword chi was shattered, and the dragon scale on Lu Ming's chest was slightly damaged, revealing a trace of blood. What a terrifying sword chi. Lu Ming's heart stirred. The upper and lower patterns contained boundless sword chi. Even a LV8 martial royal realm expert would be cut down by them. Bus. More energy poured into the air-frozen bead. Lu Ming circulated the wind element art to the extreme and his speed increased. The sky was filled with Lu Ming's figure. However, Lu Ming could not rush out of the range of the two diagrams, as they covered the entire fighting ring. If he did, it would mean that he had rushed out of the fighting ring and he would lose this round. If it was anywhere else, Lu Ming would have rushed out. Haha, under Senior Brother by Mozai technique, the White God Sword formation, Lu Ming is dead. That's right. Senior Brother by Mozai technique has killed many high-level martial emperors. Once you fall into it, unless your cultivation is too high, you will only die. This Lu Ming actually took the initiative to challenge Senior Brother by Mo. He's really looking for death. Seeing that Lu Ming was in danger, the disciples of the Heavenly God sect were in a good mood. They could not help but mock and gloat at. On the Dragon God Valley side, Tian Shui and Xuanixin were a little worried. On the fighting ring, Bai Mo's eyes turned completely white. There were lines on his eyes, which were exactly the same as the two patterns. Bai Mo stepped into the void and landed on the pattern above. The area on his body seemed to merge with the pattern. Suddenly, the pattern became even more terrifying. The sword chi whistled and the speed increased greatly. Lu Ming, today is the day you die. Bai Mo said indifferently. It's too early for you to be happy. Lu Ming's indifferent voice was heard. At the same time, he continued to form seals with his hands. Gate of God, 9 seals. A deep voice was heard as 6 sealing gates appeared. However, this time the sealing door was not aimed at Bai Mo, but at Lu Ming himself. The 6 gates of sealing hovered around Lu Ming and shone with a brilliant light. The sword chi that was aimed at Lu Ming was actually sealed by the power of the gates of sealing and stopped in midair. 9 dragons trampling the heavens. Then Lu Ming took 9 steps in a row. The power of the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps burst forth, dispersing the sword chi below. With the help of this force, Lu Ming soared into the sky. The Emperor's spiritual weapon spear had appeared in his hands again. He and the spear became one and he launched 13 strikes. He rushed to the sky and attacked Bai Mo. Whoosh. Whoosh. In the process of soaring into the sky, 2 jet-black divine swords burst out from Lu Ming's eyes. Godly Sword Technique. The Godly Sword Technique was a soul attack. It broke through the pattern that Bai Mo had laid and rushed into Bai Mo's body. Ah! At this moment, Bai Mo let out a shrill scream, as if his soul was about to be torn apart. As a martial monarch's cultivation level increased, his spiritual god would become stronger. At the same time, his soul would also become stronger. The higher the realm, the stronger the soul power. Lu Ming's soul had been refined by the world refining tribulation bell. It was broken and then rebuilt. The strength of his soul was dozens of times stronger than martial artists of the same level. Moreover, he had been cultivating the divine sword technique during this period of time. His soul force had also become stronger. If it was a martial artist of the same level as Lu Ming could directly annihilate the soul of the other party with the divine sword technique. Even a heaven's favorite like Bai Mo, whose cultivation was 2 levels higher than Lu Ming's, felt as if his soul was about to split open at this time. At this time, the 2 patterns under Bai Mo's feet became dim. Bang! Lu Ming broke through the pattern directly, and the sharp spear pierced Bai Mo's body directly. Ah! Bai Mo let out an unwilling scream, and then under Lu Ming's destructive power, his body and spirit were destroyed. Bai Mo died. At this moment, the fighting ring suddenly fell silent. Almost everyone's eyes were wide open as they stared at the fighting ring. A moment ago, Lu Ming was completely suppressed and in danger, but the next moment, the situation was reversed. Lu Ming had killed Bai Mo in one fell swoop. This change was too fast, making everyone unable to react in time. Bai Mo was cut down, and the pattern on the fighting ring disappeared. Bai Mo's body fell heavily on the fighting ring, which also woke everyone up. The scene was in an uproar. Senior Brother Bai Mo. Junior Brother Bai Mo, ah Lu Ming, you deserve to die. Furious roars rang out from the side of the heavenly divine sect. Bai Mo had a superior grade earth spiritual body. There were not many heaven's favorites like him in the entire Tianxin sect. Each one of them had the potential to become one of the top 10 geniuses in the Tsang region. In the future, they would be able to become martial saints. They might even have the chance to become supreme saints. To a sect, each and every one of these heaven's favorites was an immeasurable treasure. But now Lu Ming had killed one of them. How could the people of the Tianxin sect not be angry? Chapter 1533 beginning to deal with Dragon God Valley. On the other hand, the disciples of Dragon God Valley were very excited. Good kill. Isn't the Heavenly God sect very arrogant? This is how you kill. Lu Ming is invincible. Many people shouted. Especially Chiao Ying, Chiao Hao, and those who were close to Lu Ming. They were so excited that their faces turned red. Previously, so many people of Dragon God Valley had been killed. The disciples of Dragon God Valley were furious and aggrieved. They had nowhere to vent their anger. Now he had completely vented it out. A heaven's favorite with an upper-class earth spiritual body was worth more than all the disciples of Dragon God Valley who had been killed. There were only 3 Heaven's Pride experts from the Heavenly God sect who had participated in this small meeting. One of them had died all of a sudden, which was a heavy loss. You're just a piece of trash. Let's go. Lu Ming said coldly in the fighting ring. He put Bai Mo's storage ring away. Lu Ming, I'll kill you. You're dead. Some of the Heaven's Pride experts of the Heavenly God sect, who were at the LV7 Martial Royal Realm and above, roared in anger. What's wrong? Disciples below the 7th rank can't do it. Do you want to make a move? On the grandstand of Dragon God Valley, the disciples of the 7th rank and above said coldly, which made the faces of the disciples of the Tianxin sect even more unsightly. Lu Ming, your combat strength has already reached this level? In the stands of the Heavenly God sect, Zi Wuji spoke as he clenched his fists tightly. Ji Hongqian of Eden was sitting beside him. They were all from the Divine Ruins Continent group. A few years ago they had even competed with Lu Ming, but now Lu Ming had completely surpassed them. Eden was the strongest among them, but he was only at LV2 Martial Royal Realm. As for Zi Wuji and Ji Hongqian, they were still stuck at the peak of the first-level Martial Emperor realm. In Eden, Ji Hongqian's face was also filled with complicated emotions. Zi Wuji, Ji Hongqian, after this competition ends, I plan to leave the Heaven Deity sect and go out to temper myself. What about you two? Eden transmitted his voice to Zi Wuji and Ji Hongqian. In the past, the 3 of them did not have a good relationship in the continent of the Divine Ruins. They were even competitors. However, after coming to the Yuan continent, the 3 of them became very close. After all, they came from the same place. You want to leave the Tianxin sect? With your current cultivation, it's very dangerous for you to leave the sect and go out. Zi Wuji's expression changed. Only danger has the value of training. If I die on the path of training, I can only blame myself for not being skilled enough. However, if we stay in the deity sect, outsiders like us will not be able to receive any good training. We are no different from handymen. We will never be able to catch up to Lu Ming's footsteps. Yidian said as if he had made a decision. I'll go with you. Ji Hongqian said after a moment of silence. After Zi Wuji's expression changed for a while, he gritted his teeth and said, I'll continue to stay in the Tianxin sect. All right. Eden nodded. Everyone had their own ambitions and he would not force them. On the fighting ring, Lu Ming kept the storage ring and returned to the 10th platform in a flash. Lu Ming, well done. Tian Shui laughed. Xuaningxin and Han Sun also smiled. The disciples of the Tianxin sect flew down from the fighting ring and collected Bai Mo's body. The competition continued. Soon this round was over and a new round began. It was the turn of the Tianxin sect to challenge again. The leader of the Tianxin sect cast a cold glance at Lu Ming and the rest. However, in the end he still sent people to continue challenging the Piyuan family. Now they could only endure. Now they had already lost a top-notch powerhouse and their strength had been greatly reduced. They did not dare to fight with Dragon God Valley now. They were afraid that they would not be able to make it into the top 10. After the deity sect, the Tianyu demon sect and the Yudu sect followed the deity sect's footsteps and dealt with the Piyuan family. When it was Dragon God Valley's turn, Tian Shui challenged them and killed a 6th-level fighter. Just like that, a few rounds passed. The first sect to be eliminated had finally emerged. The Piyuan family had been eliminated in advance by the combined forces of the deity sect, the Tianyu demonic sect and the Yudu sect. Now there were only 12 sects left. The competition continued. It was Lu Ming's turn to challenge someone. This time he did not challenge the opponent's top powerhouse. Instead he chose a weaker opponent. The competition went on round by round. The atmosphere was getting more and more depressing. The faces of everyone in the Heavenly God sect also became uglier and uglier. Every round they would lose one of their heaven's favorites to Dragon God Valley. Those who were selected to participate in the small meeting were all top Heaven's Pride experts. The loss of each of them would make the Tianxin sect feel heartache. But now they were being killed one after another. When the 19th round ended, the Tianxin sect only had 16 people left. The losses were beyond imagination. There were still 4 people from Dragon God Valley. At this moment, another 2 weaker sects were eliminated. Finally, there were only 10 sects left on the scene. These 10 sects were equivalent to obtaining the qualifications for the treasure-fixing assembly. The 20th round began and it was the Tianxin sect's turn to challenge. Brother Wu, Brother Mo, it's time to eliminate Dragon God Valley. The leader of the Heavenly God sect's team had a very cold look in his eyes. His tone was filled with endless coldness. Good, just what I want. In the Tianyu demon sect, the cold light in Mo's eyes was especially intense. I've been waiting for this moment. From the Yudu sect, Wu Qiandiu's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Poisonous insects crawled out of his body and swam around him. Brother Wang, how about we work together and eliminate Dragon God Valley? The leader of the Heavenly God sect team looked at the leader of the Jiuxiao Sword sect. Jiuxiao Sword sect had a good relationship with Tianxin sect. On the contrary, they were not on good terms with Dragon God Valley. He wanted to get Jiuxiao Sword sect to deal with Lu Ming and the others. The Jiuxiao Sword sect leader's eyes flickered as he looked in the direction of Dragon God Valley with a hint of fear. I won't get involved in your business. He didn't want to get involved in the conflict between the Tianxin sect, the Tianyu demonic sect and the Yudu sect. Moreover, Dragon God Valley wasn't an easy bone to chew. Jiuxiao Sword sect's refusal made the leader of the Heavenly God sect's face darken. Hey, are you guys going to challenge me or not? Don't waste time. Tian Chui carried his huge hammer on his shoulder as he looked towards the direction of the Tianxin sect and berated. Since you're so eager to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Wanting, you're up for this round. The leader of the Heavenly God sect said to a figure who was wrapped in a black robe. I've been waiting for this moment. The black-robed figure spoke coldly, causing the hearts of many disciples of the Heavenly God sect to tremble. They knew very well how terrifying these black-robed figures and Wan Ying were. Buzz. A shadow flickered and Wan Ying appeared on the fighting ring. Many of those with weaker cultivation didn't even see how he had appeared on the fighting ring. You come down. Within the black robes, a pair of cold eyes stared at Tian Chui as a cold voice sounded out. Haha, it's finally my turn. Tian Chui grinned and laughed. Tian Chui, you have to be careful. This person is one of the 3 high-rank earth spiritual bodies in the Tianxin sect, and he is good at assassination. Han Sun warned with a serious expression. Don't worry. No matter what he's good at, I'll smash him to pieces with my hammer. Tian Chui grinned. Chapter 1534, 1534 Chapter 1534 Heavenly Hammer, Zhan Ying Boom. Tian Chui, carrying the giant hammer that was as big as a water tank, rushed into the fighting ring. Like an iron tower, he landed on the fighting ring, causing it to rumble. Shorty, let Grandpa Tian Chui's hammer scout you. Tian Chui brandished his water tank-like hammer, revealing a malevolent killing intent. Die. Right at this moment, Wan Ying moved. His body was like a shadow, suddenly appearing in front of Tian Chui, and a thin and long sword was thrust towards Tian Chui's heart. Fast, accurate and ruthless, he was like a well-trained killer. Boom. Tian Chui's feet suddenly stomped on the ground as his figure rapidly retreated. Then the giant hammer appeared in front of him. Clang. The opponent's long sword was deflected when it struck Tian Chui's hammer. Wan Ying made use of the rebound force and his body flickered, reappearing above Tian Chui's head, and the terrifying sword light pierced towards Tian Chui's head. Get lost. Tian Chui roared in anger, and the giant hammer exploded above his head. The giant hammer struck, bringing with it a terrifying wind that caused the sky to rumble. Clang. The giant hammer hit the opponent's sword again. However, Wan Ying's body seemed to be weightless, and he could appear wherever he wanted. Buzz. In the next moment, Wan Ying appeared behind Tian Chui again and thrust his long sword. Tian Chui used his giant hammer to sweep across, forming an impenetrable defense. However, Wan Ying's movement technique was truly too fast. He constantly slithered around Tian Chui's body, and his long sword was like a poisonous snake, aiming at Tian Chui's vital points every time. Shadow Domain. On the platform, Lu Ming furrowed his eyebrows slightly. Wan Ying had comprehended the Shadow Domain, which allowed him to follow like a shadow. He cultivated the sword Tao of assassination, and when they worked together perfectly, their power was astonishing. Martial artists of a higher realm than him could usually kill with one strike. It was obvious that the other side had arranged for Luan Ying to challenge Tian Chui, which just happened to be able to restrain Tian Chui, making him unable to use his full strength. Get lost, get lost, get lost. Tian Chui became more and more furious as he continuously struck out with his giant hammer. The sky exploded, bringing with it a terrifying gale that swept out in all directions. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a sword light shot out from beneath Tian Chui's feet, piercing towards him. This sword strike came without any warning and was unbelievably fast. This sword strike was actually from Tian Chui's own shadow. This sword strike had exceeded everyone's expectations. Not good. Han Sun and Xuanixin exclaimed in shock. Tian Chui seemed to have sensed the danger. With a roar, his muscles squirmed and a layer of dragon scales appeared on his skin. At the same time, Tian Chui's figure retreated explosively, avoiding this sword. The sword light still hit Tian Chui's leg, and the dragon scales were cut open, revealing a deep wound. If not for Tian Chui's timely reaction, one of his legs would have been chopped off. Whoosh! However, at this moment, his own shadow shot out another sword light from Tian Chui's feet. What a strange attack. Kill? Tian Chui roared as the giant hammer in his hand heavily smashed down on his own shadow. Boom! The giant hammer smashed the sword light directly and smashed into the shadow on the fighting ring. The entire fighting ring started to shake. Not far away, Luan Ying's body trembled and he retreated a few steps. It seemed that Tian Chui's attack had indirectly injured him. Whoosh! Then with a flash, Luan Ying disappeared. At this moment, 8 more shadows appeared around Tian Chui. Each of the shadows would shoot out a sword light, stabbing towards Tian Chui. Tian Chui used his giant hammer to sweep across, blocking the enemy's attacks. However, the attacks from all 4 directions were too fast, and Tian Chui found it difficult to completely block them. After a while, Tian Chui's body was covered with several wounds, so deep that his bones could be seen and blood was flowing out. Hee, senior brother Luan Ying, you're going to win. On the side of the Heavenly God sect, some disciples sneered. On the side of the Dragon God Valley, everyone was watching carefully with a sullen face. Torvosaurus strike. All of a sudden, Tian Chui let out a loud roar. He grabbed the handle of his giant hammer with both hands, lifted it up, and began to spin at an extreme speed. The handle of Tian Chui's hammer was exceptionally long. When it was swung, it was like a hurricane sweeping in all directions. Bang, bang, bang. The 8 shadows couldn't dodge at all. They were hit and collapsed. The 8 shadows crumbled and condensed back into one shadow, which turned into Luan Ying's figure. At this moment, the black robe on Luan Ying's head had been blown to pieces, revealing a dark and gloomy face. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Clearly, he had also been injured by Tian Chui's attack. Shadow sword kill? A deep voice came out of Luan Ying's mouth. His body slowly became blurry, turned into a shadow and finally disappeared. Luan Ying seemed to have completely disappeared from the fighting ring, and even his aura could not be sensed. Shadow-type spirit body. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Whoosh! At this moment, a sword light shot out from the top of Tian Chui's head, aiming for him. The heavenly hammer struck upwards. But at the same time, a sword light appeared beneath Tian Chui's feet, on his left and right, and stabbed towards him. Tian Chui roared in anger, his figure rapidly retreating, avoiding the sword light attack. However, there was still a ray of sword light that managed to leave a wound on Tian Chui's body. Around the heavenly hammer, sword lights constantly appeared, without a sound or sign. Torvosaurus strike. Tian Chui roared loudly and once again used the same move as before. He raised the giant hammer and madly spun it. However, this time the sword light did not collapse. Instead, it passed through the heavenly hammer's attack and continued to stab towards it. A few more wounds appeared on Tian Chui's body. What's going on? Why can't I attack him? Some disciples of Dragon God Valley said anxiously. The opponent was too strange. Tian Chui's attack was actually unable to hit him. It's not that the attack can't hit him, but that the opponent's shadow can greatly reduce the damage. When Tian Chui's attack lands on the opponent's body, the damage is reduced. At the same time, the opponent's speed is too fast and most of the attacks have been dodged by him. A 9th-level martial royal realm heaven's favorite explained in the stands. A dragon's roar came out of Tian Chui's mouth. He took a step forward and madly rushed to the side of the fighting stage. It looked like he was about to rush off the fighting ring. You want to rush to the fighting ring? Stay. In the air, Luan Ying's cold voice came. Tian Shui acted as if he didn't hear anything and continued to rush forward. Whoosh! A terrifying sword light pierced towards the heavenly hammer from behind. Tian Shui, who had been charging forward, suddenly stopped and turned around. Puchi! This sword light pierced through Tian Shui's chest, causing blood to splatter everywhere. Die! A cold voice rang out as Luan Ying's figure appeared in front of Tian Shui. Brr! At this moment, Tian Shui let out an earth-shaking dragon roar. A huge phantom of a barbaric dragon appeared on his body, and it clawed at Luan Ying. Not good. Luan Ying's expression changed drastically, but it was too late for him to dodge at such a close distance. Chapter 1535. 1535 Lu Ming vs. Wu Qindu Bang. The Torvosaurus Phantom's claw hit Luan Ying. He groaned and was sent flying, spitting out blood. Kill, die. Tian Shui roared. He threw the giant hammer in his hand like a meteorite, hitting Luan Ying, who was still in the air. Luan Ying screamed as his body was sent flying. The giant hammer carried him out of the fighting ring and landed heavily on the ground. Luan Ying spat out a mouthful of blood, his face as pale as a sheet. Luan Ying was defeated because Tian Shui was still on the fighting ring. Buzz! The giant hammer flew back into the fighting ring and landed in Tian Shui's hands. Tian Shui's body trembled as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale. Although he had defeated Luan Ying, he had also been severely injured. Senior brother Tian Shui, quickly come up and heal. Lu Ming shouted. Circulating his true qi, Tian Shui rushed up to the platform and sat down cross-legged, focusing all his energy on healing. Just now he had been wounded by Luan Ying's sword many times, and his heart had even been pierced by the long sword. The terrifying destructive sword qi had continuously destroyed Tian Shui's spiritual body. Tian Shui had to first destroy these destructive sword qi before he could recover. Damn it! On the platform of the Heavenly God sect, the leader of the Heavenly God sect shouted angrily. Originally, he had thought that with Luan Ying's combat strength as well as the fact that he just happened to be able to restrain Tian Shui, he should be able to take him down. Although he might not be able to kill Tian Shui, he should be able to defeat him without any problem. He didn't expect that Tian Shui would defeat Luan Ying in the end, with both of them suffering great losses, causing his plan to fail. In this way, 2 of the 3 top experts of the Heavenly God sect had been defeated, leaving only the leader. This made everyone in the Heavenly God sect look very ugly. Before this, the God of Heaven sect had already announced that they would also take the first place in this time's fixed treasure little meeting and achieve 3 consecutive championships. But now the leader was the only top-notch expert. Most of the other 6th-ranked experts had been killed. It was impossible for him to obtain first place. All of this was because of Dragon God Valley. Previously they had wanted to deal with Dragon God Valley, but in the end they had gotten themselves into trouble. Before the competition began, the people of the Tianshan sect probably never dreamed that this would happen. They'll leave the rest to you. The leader of the Heavenly God sect team looked at the Tianyu demon sect. Buzz! A figure with a demonic blade on his back rushed out of the Tianyu demonic sect, and his demonic chi soared into the sky. It's a demon manifestation. Someone recognized this person. There were 2 people from the Tianyu demon sect who had upper-class earth spiritual bodies and had reached the peak of LV6 martial royal realm. One of them was Mo He, and the other was Mo Xian. Mo Xian's gaze fell directly on Xuanixin and he said, "I challenge you." Many people were shocked. Sure enough, the Tianshan sect, the Tianyu demon sect, and the Yudu sect had begun to dispatch their strongest combat forces to deal with Dragon God Valley. Xuanixin took a step forward and stepped onto the fighting ring. Kill? The demonic blade was unsheathed, and demonic chi soared into the sky. Brr. As the dragon's roar rumbled, Xuanixin revealed her true form, turning into a snow dragon. The 2 sides engaged in an intense battle. This battle was different from Tian Shui's and Luan Ying's. This battle was a head-on clash and it was particularly fierce. Xuanixin was a pure-blooded true dragon. Even among the true dragons she was considered a genius. Her dragon body was strong, not weaker than a superior earth spiritual body. She was on par with Mo Xian. The 2 sides fought for more than 200 moves. In the end, Xuanixin won by a slight margin and knocked Mo Xian off the fighting stage, while Xuanixin herself was seriously injured. Her injuries were even worse than Tian Shui's. Xuanixin dragged her heavily injured body back to the platform and began to heal. Dragon God Valley had won another battle and defeated a top expert of the Tianyu demon sect. Could it be that Dragon God Valley would be the last one? Some people had such thoughts. The challenge continued, and soon it was the Desire Poison sect's turn. Bus. Wu Qiandu of the Desire Poison sect stood up and stepped onto the fighting ring. The Desire Poison sect also had 2 top experts. Wu Qiandu was the leader of the Desire Poison sect. This time he was personally taking action. Wu Qiandu's gaze shifted between Han Sun and Lu Ming. According to the rules, Tian Shui and Xuaningxin had just fought. Now they could not challenge them. They could only challenge Lu Ming and Han Sun before they could challenge Tian Shui and Xuaningxin. Finally, Wu Qiandu's gaze fell on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you managed to escape with your saint weapon the last time. Now come down and face your death. Wu Qiandu said coldly. Last time, Lu Ming had used the black wings to create a strong wind that rendered his poison gas useless. Now that he could not use his holy weapon, he would like to see how Lu Ming would defend against his poison gas. Another one is here to die. Lu Ming smiled indifferently. He took a step forward and landed on the fighting ring. Bus. As soon as Lu Ming's feet landed on the ground, Wu Qiandu made his move. A dense swarm of venomous insects swarmed toward Lu Ming, covering the sky and the sun like a dark cloud. Bus. Lu Ming's chaos domain spread out and enveloped the countless poisonous insects. Fire. Lu Ming said softly. The chaos realm turned into a flame realm in an instant. The flames enveloped the venomous insects, and with a sizzling sound, the venomous insects were burned to ashes by the flames. However, at this moment, with a wave of Wu Qiandu's hand, toads appeared one after another. Each toad was covered in pustules and emitted a foul stench as they pounced at Lu Ming. In midair, the toads spat out streams of poisonous water from their mouths, which enveloped Lu Ming. When the poisonous water fell on the chaos domain, there was actually a sizzling sound of corrosion. Kill. At the same time, Wu Qiandu charged towards Lu Ming. A soft whip appeared in his hand. The soft whip was covered with poisonous thorns and was rolling towards Lu Ming. Boom. Boom. Lu Ming cast the prison-suppressing heavenly art and punched the toads and whips one after another. However, the toads exploded in the process of Lu Ming's fist force. They turned into a pool of thick water and gushed toward Lu Ming, emitting a disgusting smell. Lu Ming felt a little dizzy when he smelled the stench. He circulated his true qi and regained his consciousness. What a terrifying poison. Lu Ming thought to himself. Bus. Bus. Venomous insects kept swarming out of Wu Qiandu's body. Then toads, venomous snakes and other things attacked Lu Ming. He controlled the soft whip and lashed it at Lu Ming with great agility. Kill, die. Lu Ming suddenly shouted and extended his divine sword technique. 2 black sword lights burst out from Lu Ming's eyes and rushed toward Wu Qiandu. But at this moment, a shield made of venomous insects appeared on the surface of Wu Qiandu's body. When the divine sword technique hit the venomous insects, a large number of them were killed, but Wu Qiandu was safe and sound. Soul attacks can ignore ordinary defenses and attack the soul. However, these bugs of mine have a spirit. Your soul attack can't penetrate anything with a spirit. You used it once last time, so I'm prepared this time. Wu Qiandu sneered. It seems like soul attacks aren't omnipotent. They still have their weaknesses. Lu Ming pondered. Chapter 1536. 1536 Refining Wu Qiandu. Ordinary defenses couldn't defend against soul attacks at all. They could directly penetrate through. Back then, when they were facing the evil spirit cult's elder Mo Hun, Lu Ming's chaos domain and bubble spacetime domain could only weaken a portion of the attack. They could not completely defend against it. It was obvious that ordinary defense was useless. However, soul attacks also had their weaknesses. If a living being was in front of them, the soul attack would not be able to pass through. For example, Wu Qiandu used his poisonous insects to block in front of him. Although the poisonous insects were small, they still had a spirit and a soul. The soul attack would attack the venomous insects, and Wu Qiandu, who was behind the venomous insects, was naturally safe and sound. Since he dared to challenge Lu Ming, he naturally had a foolproof plan. However, Lu Ming's expression remained calm. If the soul attack technique was useless, could Lu Ming not do anything to Wu Qiandu? Bus. Lu Ming covered his entire body with the chaos domain and soared into the sky. Boom. 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 Then, Lu Ming looked down from above and continued to bombard with his fists. Terrifying fist forces shot towards Wu Qiandu, the poisonous insects and the snakes like meteors. A large number of poisonous insects and toads were killed. On the fighting ring there were dead insects, toads and vipers everywhere. Pools of venom filled the fighting ring, giving off a disgusting smell. Wisps of poisonous gas filled the fighting ring. Haha, Lu Ming, thank you for your cooperation. The poison gas formation has been set up. You can die now. In the fighting ring, Wu Qiandu revealed a cold smile. A cloud of green poisonous gas gushed out from his body and merged with the poisonous gas on the fighting ring. The entire fighting ring was shrouded in the poisonous gas. 1,000 poisonous hands. Wu Qiandu said coldly. The poisonous gas rolled and turned into poisonous palms, blasting toward Lu Ming in the sky. Lu Ming cast the wind elemental technique and dodged the poisonous palms. Since that's the case, I'll kill you first. An Emperor spiritual weapon spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. He became one with the spear and swooped down, charging into the poison gas formation and killing Wu Qiandu. You can't kill me? Wu Qiandu sneered. With a bang, his body exploded and turned into clouds of poisonous gas, which then merged with the poisonous gas of the formation. Lu Ming's long spear swept across and the poisonous gas rolled around. Kill? Lu Ming shouted and an invisible soul attack burst out. However, there were countless poisonous insects flying in the poisonous gas. Lu Ming shouted and a group of poisonous insects fell. Hee Lu Ming, you can't hurt me at all. You can only let me kill you. Wu Qiandu's smug voice rang out. The poison gas formation rolled and surged towards Lu Ming continuously. The terrifying poison gas enveloped Lu Ming as if it was going to corrode the chaos realm and turn Lu Ming into ashes. Moreover, the poisonous gas would condense into attacks that were aimed at Lu Ming. The long spear vibrated and destroyed the attacks one by one. Lu Ming, you can rush down the Colosseum yourself. Otherwise I'll kill you. Wu Qiandu's cold voice sounded. You think too highly of yourself. Lu Ming said indifferently. If he wanted to kill Wu Qiandu, Lu Ming could do it now. As long as he cast the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal, the terrifying power of the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal would directly cover the entire fighting ring. He could easily destroy this large array and even kill Wu Qiandu. But now was not the time to use the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. Lu Ming wanted to keep the Chaos Empyrean Seal to deal with the leader of the Divine Realm sect or MOE. He would not use the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal for the time being, so he could only use other methods. Bus. Lu Ming's chaos domain suddenly spread out, enveloping the entire fighting ring. Then endless thunder and lightning appeared and filled the fighting ring, followed by flames. The entire fighting ring was enveloped by the power of thunder and fire. Chichi. The poisonous insects were burned to death one by one. Kill. Kill. Then Lu Ming kept shouting and casting the divine sword technique. It formed invisible waves that rushed in all directions. A large number of poisonous insects were killed and turned into ashes in the thunder and fire. I don't believe that your soul force can keep on exploding. Wu Qiandu's voice sounded. A person's soul power is limited. Using it continuously will consume a lot of soul power. However, after a while Wu Qiandu started to get nervous. Lu Ming did not stop. His soul attacks continued to erupt, and the poisonous insects were almost all killed. Kill? Lu Ming bellowed. The poisonous gas rolled and Wu Qiandu's agonized cries rang out. A cloud of mist gathered and rolled, as if it was about to condense into a human figure. Devour. Lu Ming took a step forward and pressed his left palm in the air. The devouring power burst forth and enveloped the cloud of poisonous gas. Wisps of poisonous gas were devoured and began to be refined by Lu Ming. The poisonous gas was very terrifying. However, Lu Ming's spirit body had reached the superior grade earth spirit body. Moreover, his spirit body contained traces of chaotic qi, which was stronger than ordinary superior grade earth spirit bodies. He was not afraid of the poisonous gas. Brr. A faint dragon's roar could be heard coming from Lu Ming's body. The poisonous gas that Wu Qiandu had turned into was being refined continuously. How could this be? My spirit body is invincible. How did you refine it? Within the poisonous gas, Wu Qiandu's terrified cry rang out as he desperately resisted. Kill, die. Lu Ming shouted. Two beams of sword light shot out of his eyes and pierced into the poisonous gas. Wu Qiandu screamed in pain as his resistance was instantly weakened. Lu Ming continued to release his devouring power, devouring and refining the poisonous gas that Wu Qiandu had turned into. As he screamed, the cloud of poisonous gas that Wu Qiandu had turned into became smaller and smaller. He wanted to reform his body, but Lu Ming attacked him directly. With a punch, he turned into poisonous gas again and was devoured and refined by Lu Ming. Very quickly, the poisonous gas that Wu Qiandu had turned into was reduced by more than half. Spare me, please spare me. Wu Qiandu was finally scared and started to beg for mercy. The feeling of watching himself being refined made him extremely frightened. Moreover, he didn't want to die. He had a bright future ahead of him. With his talent, he was very confident that he could break through to the Saint Realm in the future. How carefree was a Saint Realm expert with a lifespan of more than 100,000 years? And NBSP, the spectators from the 13 sects were all stunned. Wu Qiandu had actually been forced to this extent by Lu Ming? In the eyes of these heaven's favorites, Wu Qiandu was a terrifying existence. With his 1,000-bath poison body and his deadly poison, no one wouldn't be afraid of him. Even those heaven's favorites at his level would be afraid of him. But now he was begging for mercy in front of Lu Ming. Spare my life? Previously you sent people from the Yudu sect to kill our Dragon God Valley disciples. Why didn't you spare them? Why didn't you think about the current situation? Lu Ming said coldly. The devouring power continued to devour. Wu Qiandu cried out in pain and the poisonous gas continued to roll. Before the battle with Lu Ming, he would not have thought of such an outcome. All he could think of was how to kill Lu Ming. Wisps of poisonous gas were devoured by Lu Ming and then refined. The poisonous gas that Wu Qiandu had turned into was getting smaller and smaller. Chapter 1537, 1537 Chapter 1537 became a joke. Young man, don't go too far. Don't go too far. At this moment an old voice came from one of the buildings. From the direction of the voice, it should be the Saint Realm Elder of the Yudu sect. Hehe, are you heartbroken? Why didn't you think about that when you killed the disciples of Dragon God Valley? Lu Ming, you don't have to care about this old man. The voice of the Dragon God Valley's Saint Realm Elder came from the pavilion behind the Dragon God Valley. Young man, you'd better think about it. After all, you'll have to travel outside in the future. It's not good to go too far. The Saint Realm Elder of the Yudu sect continued. You're despicable. You're threatening a disciple of Dragon God Valley. The Saint Realm Elder of Dragon God Valley said. Hehe. The Saint Realm Elder of the Yudu sect sneered. Kill? However, Lu Ming's reply was only one word: kill. 2 more beams of sword light shot out from Lu Ming's eyes and pierced into the poisonous gas. Wu Qiandu screamed in pain as the cloud of poisonous gas collapsed completely, without a trace of life. Wu Qiandu dead. This was Lu Ming's response to the Yudu sect's Sage Realm Elder. He was domineering and merciless. At this moment, there was no sound from the pavilion behind the Desire Poison sect. However, a cold killing intent spread out. Of course, in such an environment, the elders of the Saint Realm were not allowed to interfere. Otherwise the other sects would gang up on them. He was dead. Wu Qian was poisoned to death. Most of the people present felt their hearts trembling. Another top Heaven's Pride expert was killed by Lu Ming. Including by Mo, there were 2 top Heaven's Pride experts who had died at the hands of Lu Ming. It was too tragic. In the previous treasure auction, very few upper-grade Earth spiritual bodies were killed. Geniuses of this level, even if there was a gap in combat strength, it wouldn't be too big. It was possible to defeat them, but it was very difficult to kill them. This time it was only the 20th round, and 2 heaven's favorites of this level had already died. There were also many who were seriously injured. Because of Lu Ming, the small meeting this time was many times more tragic than before. Lu Ming put away Wu Qiandu's storage ring and returned to the platform. Then someone went up to the fighting ring and cleaned it. After all, Wu Qiandu had released so many poisonous insects, snakes and the like. The fighting ring was filled with poisonous substances. On the platform of the Heavenly God sect, the Heavenly God sect's team leader's eyes were incomparably cold. His gaze swept over Tian Chui and Xuanning Xin, who were currently recuperating, and his killing intent was faintly visible. This guy wants to challenge Tian Chui and Xuanning Xin in the next round, Lu Ming said. Now Tian Chui and Xuanning Xin were seriously injured. If they were to be challenged by the Heavenly God sect's team leader, it would be extremely dangerous. The Heavenly God sect's team leader obviously wanted to take this opportunity to kill Tian Chui and Xuanning Xin. I won't let him succeed, Han Sun said, his killing intent cold. After cleaning up, the competition continued. It was unknown if the atmosphere had been incited, but when it was the other sect's turn, it became even more intense and explosive. The other sects that had grudges with each other also began to send out their top experts to challenge the top experts of the sects that had grudges with each other. After Lu Ming and Wu Qiandu, there were 2 more clashes between the top powerhouses. The battle was extremely intense. In the end, the top geniuses of the Intentionless Saber sect and the Demon Castle were both injured and fell off the fighting ring. The top-tier expert of the Linglong Palace had defeated his opponent with a serious injury and won. Soon it was Dragon God Valley's turn to challenge. Han Sun stood up, took a step forward, and appeared on the fighting ring. "Yu Sheng, come down," Han Sun coldly said. Yu Sheng was the name of the team leader of the Heavenly God sect. Everyone was shocked. Han Sun was challenging Yu Sheng. The leaders of the two sects were about to clash. Yu Sheng's eyes turned cold. His original plan was to wait for the next round. When it was the time for the Heavenly God sect to challenge him, he would personally take action to kill Tianchui or Xuanixin. Obviously, Han Sun had seen through his plan and directly challenged him. Yu Sheng stepped out and landed on the fighting ring. "It's the same if I kill you first," Yu Sheng said coldly. Brilliant holy light burst out of his body. He was bathed in the holy light, and there was no dust or dirt on him. Yu Sheng was a direct descendant of the Tianxin sect, and he cultivated the pure techniques of the Tianxin sect. "What big words!" Han Sun sneered. A terrifying cold qi burst out from his body, spreading in all directions. Half of the fighting ring was covered with white frost. Boom, boom. Yu Sheng and Han Sun charged at each other at the same time and started an intense battle. The two figures kept clashing on the fighting ring at an increasingly fast speed. Some of the weaker cultivators could no longer see the two figures clearly. They could only see the endless holy light and the terrible cold current clashing on the battle platform, forming a pillar of qi that shot into the sky. Whoosh. Yu Sheng was bathed in holy light, holding the spear of God's punishment. He was like a god descending to the world, ready to punish the world. White dragon scales emerged on Han Sun's body, and he was covered in a layer of ice armor. His arms had turned into dragon claws, which were so terrifying that they seemed to be able to tear apart everything. Bus, bus. The dragon claw and the spear of God's punishment collided fiercely. Puchi. Han Sun's shoulder was pierced by the spear of God's punishment, but his other dragon claw was still on Yu Sheng's chest, almost ripping his heart out. The two of them were injured at the same time, and their clothes were stained red with blood. However, the battle continued. To be honest, Han Sun and Yu Sheng's combat power was very terrifying, even stronger than Bai Mo's. It could be said that in the future, they were very likely to be among the top 10 geniuses of the Azure continent. After all, the top 10 geniuses were selected by the younger generation below the Saint Realm. Once the current top 10 geniuses entered the Saint Realm, they would automatically be removed from the top 10 geniuses and replaced by New Heaven's favorites. It could be said that these two future freaks were going to fight in advance. This battle lasted for more than 300 moves. The two's true essence and physical strength gradually ran out. In the end, it became a hand-to-hand fight. The two were entangled and their blood stained the fighting ring. Bang. In the end, the two of them rolled off the fighting ring at the same time, ending the battle. Lu Ming moved and appeared beside Han Sun. He poured his essential core into Han Sun's body and said, "Senior brother Han Sun, are you all right?" "Don't worry, it's fine. That guy is even worse off," Han Sun said with a smile. "Umph." Yu Sheng snorted coldly. With the help of the disciples of the Heaven God sect, he landed on the stands, took a healing pill, and began to heal his injuries. Lu Ming supported Han Sun to the stand behind the platform. Then they returned to the platform. In this way there were only 3 people left in the Dragon God Valley. However, the people of the Heavenly God sect all had gloomy faces. After Yu Sheng stepped down, there were no more top experts in the Tianxin sect. It was a complete joke to win the first place. The competition continued and soon this round was announced to be over. It was time for the 22nd round. In this round, the remaining disciples of the Tianxin sect had completely lost their morale. They randomly sent out one person to challenge the other sections. It was the Tianyu demonic sect's turn. "I'll do it." In the Tianyu demonic sect, he carried the demonic blade on his back and stepped out. He landed on the battle platform and looked directly at Dragon God Valley. His eyes swept across Tianchui and Xuanixin. Lu Ming's heart sank. Chapter 1538. 1538 Lu Ming was the only one left. He obviously wanted to challenge Tianchui and Xuanixin. Finally, He's eyes fell on Xuanixin and he said coldly, "Come out. Fight." Xuanixin said forcefully and stepped forward. "Senior sister, be careful," Lu Ming said. Xuanixin nodded and stepped onto the fighting ring. "I'll kill you in this battle." He's demonic chi surged and a vast demonic might burst out. Behind him, the demonic blade automatically unsheathed. and the terrifying blade light slashed toward Xuaningxin. Xuaningxin roared and transformed into her true form. She opened her mouth and spat out a stream of ice and snow, which rushed toward the saber light. Boom! An intense collision occurred, and Xuaningxin's slender body trembled as she retreated. Xuaningxin had been seriously injured in the last battle. It was impossible for her to recover in such a short time. With her injured body, she was at a disadvantage from the beginning of the fight with Mo He. Splitting Devil Blade. The demonic blade in Mo He's hand merged with the domain all over his body and he slashed out again. The splitting demonic blade was the ultimate technique of the Tianyu demonic sect. It was said to be able to split all things with one blade. It was extremely terrifying. Anything would be split apart by the splitting demonic blade. Snowflakes were condensed around Xuaningxin. The snowflakes danced in the air and were extremely sharp. They cut through the air and made a terrible whistling sound as they flew toward the splitting demon blade. However, when the snowflakes came into contact with the splitting demonic blade, they seemed to have received a terrifying shock and exploded. Bus, bus, and NBSP whoosh. The endless snowflakes collided with the demonic blade, creating a metallic sound. The snowflakes crumbled, but the demonic blade's power also weakened rapidly. Slash. However, Mo He's demonic chi was boiling and he slashed again. Then he slashed again. One slash after another, each slash was extremely terrifying, as if it was going to split the sky. Xuaningxin's dragon claw stepped in the air and pounced forward, engaging in a fierce confrontation with Mo He. Boom, boom. Terrifying rumbles continued to be heard as the two of them exchanged dozens of blows. Gradually, Xuaningxin was no match for him. Her injuries flared up, and it was difficult for her to use her full combat strength. Puchi. The dragon scales were cut open and fell everywhere. On Xuaningxin's body, there were many deep and long wounds, and her white body was stained with blood. Kill. Mo He's demonic blade pierced through Xuaningxin's attack and went for her head, trying to cut her head off. Xuaningxin quickly retreated, but she was still a step too late. A wound was left on her forehead. Xuaningxin was already seriously injured and now she was even more injured. Her combat power was getting weaker and weaker and she was no match for Mo He at all. Senior sister stepped down from the fighting ring. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Xuaningxin. If this continued, Xuaningxin would be in danger. Xuaningxin roared loudly. She was a little unwilling. After exchanging another blow with Mo He, she turned around and left. If you want to leave, then stay, Mo He said coldly. The demonic chi from her body was even more terrifying. She shot up into the sky and slashed out with her demonic blade. 8 blade lights slashed down, blocking Xuaningxin's path. Xuaningxin's dragon claws stepped on the ground, and the ground was suddenly covered with a layer of ice and snow. Ice swords rushed out one after another, rushing toward the demonic blades. Bang, bang. The sound of a collision rang out. Unfortunately, Xuaningxin's combat strength had declined. For a moment she could not break the demonic blade at all. Instead, the demonic blade left a deep wound on her body, almost cutting off one of the dragon claws. You won't be able to escape. You'll definitely die today. Devil Dragon Seal. Die. Mo He said coldly. He formed a seal with his hands and a black demonic dragon flew out with a roar, charging at Xuaningxin. 2 dragons, one black and one white, were fighting on the fighting ring. Then, Mo He attacked Xuaningxin with the splitting demonic blade. After a few moves, Xuaningxin's injuries became even more serious. Break. In the end, Xuaningxin let out a loud roar, and her true dragon body rapidly shrank. Then a layer of ice crystals covered her body, making her look like an ice sword. Whoosh. The ice sword continued to attack, clashing with Mo He's demonic blade. Finally, it rushed out of the range of the demonic blade and rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. At this time, the ice crystals covering Xuaningxin's body also collapsed. Xuaningxin's breath became even weaker. With a step of her dragon claw, her body rushed out of the fighting ring and fell down. At this moment, she heaved a sigh of relief and quickly restrained her aura. Kill? However, at this moment, Mo He roared and stood at the edge of the fighting ring. His eyes were ferocious and full of cold killing intent. He slashed out a demonic blade towards Xuaningxin's head. When Xuaningxin fell off the fighting ring, it meant that the battle was over. Therefore, she had completely let down her guard and retracted her Zhen Yuan. However, she did not expect that Mo He would be so despicable that he would attack again and make a fatal move on Xuaningxin. Xuaningxin had no time to dodge this move. You're looking for death. On the platform, Lu Ming let out a loud roar. The vital essence in his body was boiling, and the black wings on his back suddenly stretched out. With a flap, he appeared beside Xuaningxin. He flapped his black wings and destroyed the demonic blade. Lu Ming, what are you doing? Interfering in the middle, using a holy weapon and breaking the rules? Seeing that his saber was blocked by Lu Ming Mo, his eyes flashed with dissatisfaction and he shouted angrily. Shut up. Who is the one who broke the rules? My senior sister has already rushed out of the fighting stage and her feet have already touched the ground, which means that she has lost. This battle has already ended, but you still continue to kill her. Is it you who has broken the rules or am I the one who has? Lu Ming stared at Mo, his eyes very cold. Just now, if he hadn't been staring at the fighting ring and noticed that something was wrong, he would have immediately used his saint weapon and rushed out. Xuaningxin would have been in real danger. Oh? Had she already landed on the ground? I didn't see it just now. Mo, he quibbled. Lu Ming did not say anything. He just stared at Mo, his eyes revealing an extremely cold killing intent. He must kill this Mo. Senior sister, let's go. Lu Ming helped Xuaningxin to the stance. Junior brother, thank you for earlier. At this moment, Xuaningxin had already returned to her human form, her face a little pale. Senior sister, you don't have to be so polite. I will kill Mo and avenge you. Lu Ming said. I believe in you, junior brother. Xuaningxin smiled and swallowed a healing pill to begin healing her injuries. Lu Ming, on the other hand, returned to the platform. The challenge continued. As expected, when it was the Desire Poison sect's turn, one of their experts challenged Tianchui. The Desire Poison sect, like the Sky Demon sect, also had two top experts. Previously, Wu Qiandu had been killed by Lu Ming, and there was only one left. The Desire Poison sect clearly hated Lu Ming to the core and wanted to kill Tianchui to avenge Wu Qiandu. However, Tianchui's injuries were slightly better than Xuaningxin's. Furthermore, Tianchui cultivated the Berserk Dragon Body, which had a strong defense. The opponent did not cause too much damage to Tianchui. However, Tianchui was still injured and was no match for his opponent. After exchanging more than 100 moves, he was knocked down from the fighting ring. With Tianchui's defeat, Lu Ming was the only one left in Dragon God Valley. Countless gazes fell on the platform of Dragon God Valley, on Lu Ming alone. Now Lu Ming was the only one left in Dragon God Valley. How would he fight? Chapter 1539. 1539 The great battle against Mo. The challenges continued, and it was very intense. By now the competition was already in the latter half. The weak had been eliminated, and the remaining ones were all very strong. The battle was very intense. One match after another, it was finally Dragon God Valley's turn. Lu Ming took a step forward and landed on the fighting ring. Mo, come down and accept your death. Lu Ming's voice was heard by everyone. As expected, Lu Ming wants to challenge Mo. Many people thought that Mo had broken the rules and almost killed Xuaningxin. Many people guessed that Lu Ming would definitely challenge Mo. Mo carried the devil's saber on his back and stepped onto the fighting ring. You've managed to escape twice. Today I'll finish you off. Mo said. Even though Lu Ming had already killed two top-notch experts, he was still very strong. You won't have any chance today. You'll definitely die. Lu Ming spoke in an equally domineering manner. Bus. The two of them stood facing each other, and their domains burst out at the same time, surging toward each other. Boom. The two's domains clashed together, creating a loud boom as they fought fiercely. Mo's territory was a demonic Dao territory and was at the peak of the 7th level, while Lu Ming's territory was only at the peak of the 4th level. However, in the clash of territories, Lu Ming's territory was not at a disadvantage at all. The two domains clashed and intertwined, creating a terrifying storm of energy. Kill. Splitting devil blade. Die. Mo shouted and unsheathed his demonic saber. A shocking saber radiance broke through the sky and slashed down at Lu Ming. The Emperor's spiritual weapon spear appeared in Lu Ming's hands. He cast storing power for 13 strikes, and a spear ray burst out, colliding with the demonic blade. Within the spear light, 13 forces overlapped and exploded, erupting with a terrifying penetrating power. However, there was a terrifying splitting force within the demonic blade that was rapidly splitting the spear radiance's power. In the end, the two of them dissipated. Lu Ming's eyes flickered slightly. The Sky Demon sect's splitting demonic blade indeed lived up to its reputation. Bus. Then the two of them charged forward like two bolts of lightning and struck each other. The demonic blade and the long spear clashed together, creating a terrifying boom. Every time the two of them collided, a terrifying shockwave would burst out. The force was wanton and swept in all directions. There was a layer of transparent light screen around the fighting stage, which blocked the overflowing chi. Otherwise, some of the weaker people in the stands would have been injured. Kill? After exchanging several moves, Lu Ming shouted. Two divine swords shot out from his eyes and shot toward Mo He. Lu Ming cast the divine sword technique. Two jet-black divine swords rushed into Mo He's body and bombarded his spiritual god. However, Mo He's body only trembled slightly and he was fine. Spiritual god defensive treasure. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. Your soul attack is useless against me. Mo He sneered. His demonic blade swept across and he took the opportunity to attack Lu Ming. Bus. Lu Ming's long spear shook and blocked the demonic blade's attack. Then the two of them fought again and exchanged dozens of moves. To be honest, Mo He was indeed very strong. He was even stronger than Bai Mo and Wu Qindu, whom Lu Ming had just killed. He should be on par with Han Sun and the team leader of the Divine God sect. Lu Ming's spirit body and chaos realm had some advantages. However, his opponent's cultivation was 2 levels higher than Lu Ming's. The two of them fought intensely and it was difficult to determine the winner. The third bloodline. With a single thought, Lu Ming's third bloodline emerged. A wisp of energy surged into Lu Ming's body, making his combat strength even stronger. Clang. Lu Ming's long spear swept out. Mo He's body trembled and he was sent flying. He slid along the fighting ring for a long distance. Gate of God 9 seals. Lu Ming's hands rapidly formed seals. 6 sealing gates appeared around Mo He trying to seal him. Demonic God descend, demonic God. Mo He roared and demonic chi surged. A giant demonic god with 3 heads and 6 arms condensed around him, emitting vast demonic might. This was a secret skill or it was a secret skill brought by the demonic spirit body. It was very similar to Bai Mo's sword array, which was a secret skill brought by the spirit body. Boom. The 3-headed and 6-armed fiend celestial struck out 6 palms in a row, hitting the 6 sealing gates. Boom. Boom. The 6 gates of sealing trembled and exploded. At this moment, Lu Ming's attack had already arrived. The long spear smashed down on Mo He like Mount Tai. An NBSP boom boom. The 3-headed and 6-armed fiend celestial's 6 huge demonic palms slammed down on Lu Ming. 2 of them blocked Lu Ming's long spear, while the other 4 were like 4 huge mountains that pressed down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming's long spear trembled and turned into a heavy spear shadow, blasting out. The long spear collided with the demonic palm continuously. Lu Ming and Mo He were forced to retreat in the midst of the violent rumbles. This brat has such combat strength in such a short time. He must be eliminated. Mo He was extremely shocked. Back then, when he led his men to hunt down Lu Ming could not put up much of a resistance in front of him. However, now Lu Ming could fight him head-on. The battle was difficult to determine. Then, after a period of time, what realm would Lu Ming reach? Would he surpass him in all aspects? His heart turned cold at the thought of this. He and Lu Ming were already mortal enemies. They would not rest until one of them was dead. If they met in the future, there would definitely be a tragic battle. One of them had to die. However, after a while he was afraid that he would be the one to die if he encountered Lu Ming. Therefore he had to kill Lu Ming now. Kill, die. Mo He roared. His demonic chi seemed to be on fire. The huge demonic god seemed to have become real. What was shocking was that 6 huge demonic blades appeared on the 6 arms of the demonic god. Boom. Boom. Mo He stepped forward and charged at Lu Ming. The huge demonic god waved his huge demonic blade and charged at Lu Ming. Kill? Lu Ming shouted. The power of the third bloodline gushed into Lu Ming's body continuously, making his killing intent even more intense. At the same time, the devouring power burst out and enveloped Mo He, causing the demonic chi in Mo He's body to become unstable. The demonic god's aura also weakened. Lu Ming took a step forward and his body soared into the sky. His long spear turned into a 1,000-meter-long spear ray and smashed wildly at Mo He. Mo He's eyes were ferocious. He exerted all his strength. The huge demonic god and the 6 demonic blades slashed at Lu Ming continuously. The two of them collided intensely, and the spear radiance and the saber radiance soared into the sky. All around, whether it was on the platform or the grandstand, everyone held their breath and stared at the fighting ring. They were afraid of missing out on the exciting scene. What a powerful combat strength. He is below the 7th level of the martial royal realm, but he can still exert such a terrifying combat strength. I'm afraid that even a LV8 martial royal realm expert would be killed by him. A heaven's favorite above the 7th level of the martial royal realm spoke with a serious look in his eyes. They are all peerless heaven's favorites. In the future, they have great hopes of becoming one of the top 10 demon-level geniuses of the Azure continent. That's right. I wonder what the outcome of this battle is? Some people were discussing in low voices, but their eyes were still fixed on the fighting ring. Chapter 1540 Chapter 1540 Foul in the blink of an eye, Lu Ming and Mo he had exchanged dozens of moves. At this moment, the demonic god that Mo he had condensed began to shake. Obviously, to maintain this demon god, Mo he's consumption was astonishing. Moreover, Lu Ming was constantly releasing the devouring power. Mo he felt that the demonic chi in his body was constantly being devoured by Lu Ming, causing his demonic chi to be even more unsustainable. Seal. At that moment, Lu Ming cast the sealing gates again. The 6 sealing gates glowed and suppressed the demonic god. This time, the demonic god finally could not break through the sealing gates in a short time and its movements became stiff. Boom. Lu Ming seized the opportunity. His long spear turned into a huge spearlight and smashed heavily on the Asmodean lord's head. 13 forces instantly stacked and exploded. Die. Mo he roared. The demon god's head exploded and then his body exploded. In an instant, the demon god exploded. Mo he's body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale. Retreat. Mo he gritted his teeth and flew backward. He knew that he had lost today. He was no match for Lu Ming. Now he had to rush down the fighting ring. You can't escape, Feng? Lu Ming said coldly. 6 sealing gates appeared in front of Mo he, blocking his way. Mo he's demonic blade slashed out continuously, but it couldn't break the barrier of the door seal. At this moment, Lu Ming had already put away his spear. He was holding a huge seal in one of his palms. Primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. Now, the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal had been cultivated by Lu Ming to the peak of the 3rd level. While its power was getting stronger, he was also getting more skilled in using it. When he used the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal, he didn't need to use it all at once to the maximum, as it would consume a terrifying amount of true essence. Now, he could control the power of the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. By reducing the power of the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal, he could save a lot of genuine yuan and control it more easily. For example, the seal in Lu Ming's hand was the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal that he had condensed. It was about 50% of its power when Lu Ming used his full strength. However, if Lu Ming used his full strength, it was impossible for him to hold it in his palm and control it to such an extent. It was much more convenient for Lu Ming to control 50% of its power. Boom. Lu Ming waved his hand and the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal smashed at Mo he. The attack power of 50% of the full power was also terrifyingly powerful. It exceeded the power of Lu Ming's, storing power 13 strikes. The primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal smashed towards Mo he like an ancient divine mountain. Its vast power and astonishing aura made Mo he's expression change drastically. Mo he roared and turned around to block. He kept slashing out with his demonic blade, hoping to block it. Boom. When the splitting Devil Saber slashed on the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal, not only did it not split the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal, but the Devil Saber itself was directly crushed by the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. The primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal continued to descend. In the end, Mo he used his demonic blade to block in front of him. An Emperor-level spiritual weapon armor appeared on his body, and together with his territory he blocked in front of him. Boom. The primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal struck down heavily. Mo he's body trembled violently and he retreated frantically. His face was pale and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. His hands that were holding the blade were trembling non-stop. The bone armor on his wrist was broken. Only by paying such a heavy price could it block the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. However, a loud rumbling sound came from above, and another Chaos Sky-Turning stamp came crashing down. Ah! Mo he roared and exerted all his strength to defend with all his might. Bang! This time, Mo he knelt on the ground and spurted blood. His arms exploded and his demonic blade flew far away. Even with the protection of the Emperor's spiritual weapon, his body couldn't withstand all the power. The terrifying power shattered many of Mo he's bones. However, to Mo he's despair, the 3rd Chaos Sky-Turning Seal pressed down on him with a loud rumble in the sky. No. This time, he let out a desperate roar. This time he definitely couldn't resist it. If he couldn't resist it, he would die. Come out, die. He roared. A small black pagoda flew out from his brow, and a vast aura spread out. A holy weapon. This small pagoda was a holy weapon. Buzz. The saint weapon expanded rapidly and collided with the chaotic sky-turning stamp. The small black tower was sent flying. He spat out blood again and rolled on the fighting ring, leaving a pool of blood on the ground. He's breaking the rules. He's breaking the rules. He's using a holy weapon. Use your saint weapon and kill without mercy. The disciples of Dragon God Valley roared in anger. Buzz. In the pavilion behind Dragon God Valley, the elder of Dragon God Valley stepped out in the air. His eyes were cold as he said, "Those who use saint weapons without permission on the stage will be killed without mercy." The Saint Realm elder struck out with his palm, and a huge palm print pressed toward Mohe. "What are you doing?" An elder rushed out of the pavilion behind the Jianghu demon sect. He struck out with his palm, and a blade light slashed out, shattering the palm print of the Saint Realm elder of Dragon God Valley. The Saint Realm elder of Dragon God Valley looked coldly at the Saint Realm elder of the Jianghu demon sect and said, "Before the battle began, I already announced that anyone who uses a saint weapon on the stage will be killed without mercy. You want to stop me? Elder, save me." Mohe shouted in fear. The Saint Realm elder of the Jianghu demon sect frowned and said, "How about we let him off this time?" "Spare him? You can ask the fellow Taoists from the other sects if they agree." The Saint Realm elder of Dragon God Valley sneered. "Bus." And NBSP whoosh. Figures stepped out of the buildings. They were the Saint Realm elders of the 13 sections. The rules that have been passed down for tens of thousands of years must not be broken. Since you have violated them, kill. The elder of the Life and Death Sword sect was the first to speak, his killing intent cold. "That's right. If everyone uses their saint weapons, what's the point? How could one tell the strength of the younger generation? Wouldn't it just be a matter of how many saint weapons one had? Therefore he must be killed." The elder of the demon castle continued. "I agree. We must kill him. If he didn't use his saint weapon, he would have already been killed." "I agree." The elders of the other sects chimed in one after another, causing Mohe to be filled with despair. Only the elders of the Heavenly God sect and the Yudu sect did not speak. Their expressions were rather unsightly. "No, I don't want to die." Mohe roared and turned into a ray of demonic light, rushing into the distance. "Die." The Saint Realm elder of Dragon God Valley roared, and a terrible sound wave rushed toward Mohe. Mohe's body exploded in the air, and even the small saint weapon tower had no effect. Lu Ming's heart trembled. Was this the combat strength of a Sage Realm elder? He didn't even make a move. He only shouted and killed Mohe. After killing Mohe, the elder of the Dragon God Valley reached out and grabbed Mohe's holy weapon pagoda. Then he waved his hand and the holy weapon pagoda flew toward Lu Ming. Chapter 1541. 1541 Chapter 1541. No one dares to fight with one person. Lu Ming, this holy weapon is your spoils of war. Take it. The Saint Realm elder of Dragon God Valley said. "Many thanks, elder." Lu Ming did not stand on ceremony. He put away the holy weapon, the small tower, and of course, Mohe's storage ring. These were all his spoils of war. He took them without any hesitation. Umph. The elder of the Tianyu demonic sect cast a cold glance at Lu Ming, then turned around and returned to the pavilion. The elders of the other sects also returned to their pavilions one by one. "Lu Ming, you've done well. You've made a great contribution this time. The sect will definitely reward you according to your contributions." The Saint Realm elder of Dragon God Valley said with a smile. This made you and the others from the Silver City jealous. Lu Ming smiled and returned to the 10th platform. He sat down cross-legged and waved his hand. A large pile of raw gemstones appeared. Lu Ming devoured the raw gemstones and began to recover. In the battle just now, Lu Ming had also consumed a lot of his essential core and he did not have much of it left. On the stands, everyone's gaze fell on Lu Ming with deep fear. 3 top-notch geniuses had already died at Lu Ming's hands in this small meeting. If Mohe did not use his holy weapon, he would have been killed by Lu Ming. Therefore it was the same as being killed by Lu Ming. There were 3 top-notch heaven's favorites. The Tianxin sect, the Tianyu demonic sect, and the Yudu sect each had 1. This was truly a heavy loss. In the past, such a situation rarely occurred. Moreover, Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the peak of the 4th-level martial emperor realm. It was simply a miracle that he had such a battle record. In the treasure auction, it was extremely difficult and rare to kill a 6th-level martial royal realm Heaven's Pride expert. However, Lu Ming had killed 3 of them this time. It should be known that the Divine Son had only killed 2 Heaven's favorites of this level when he participated in the treasure auction. And now the Divine Child was the head of the 10 great monsters. Lu Ming had already broken the record of the Divine Son. The 13 sects and forces all had different thoughts in their minds. The challenge continued. After Lu Ming's challenge, it was the Demon Castle's turn on platform number 13. This was because Piyuan family on platform 11 and Blood Demon Tower on platform 12 had already been eliminated. After the Demon Castle challenge ended, this round also ended. Next, it was a new round and it was the turn of the Tianxin sect. The people of the Heavenly God sect looked at Lu Ming with deep fear. Then they sent one person to challenge the other sections. Next, it was the Tianyu Demon sect's turn. Although they wanted to avenge Mo He, no one dared to challenge Lu Ming. They could only challenge the other sections. Lu Ming sat cross-legged on the platform alone, but no one dared to fight. Soon it was the Desire Poison sect's turn. The Desire Poison sect still had a top genius who had defeated Tian Chue earlier. However, when he looked at Lu Ming, his eyes were filled with fear. He did not dare to challenge Lu Ming, so he sent another person to challenge the other sections. When it was Dragon God Valley's turn again, no one dared to challenge Lu Ming. When it was Lu Ming's turn again, everyone's eyes fell on him. They did not know who Lu Ming was going to challenge this time. Everyone was nervous. This was especially so for the 3 major sects, the Deity sect, the Sky Demon sect and the Yudu sect. Anyone who was challenged by Lu Ming would be courting death. Lu Ming stepped onto the platform. After the cultivation just now, his essential core had been fully recovered. The devouring power and the speed of devouring raw gemstones to recover his essential core was shocking. No one could compare to it. Lu Ming's gaze fell directly on the Desire Poison sect's side, challenging the only remaining top-notch expert of the Desire Poison sect. Just now, this person had challenged Tian Chue, so he would not let him off easily. The Yudu sect's expert stepped onto the fighting stage with an ugly expression. However, the moment he stepped onto the fighting stage, he immediately rushed to the back. He wanted to rush off the fighting ring. Many people were speechless. This person had a superior grade earth spiritual body, an existence on par with Mo He, Wu Qiandu and the others. However, he didn't even dare to fight and wanted to rush down the fighting stage. It could be seen that this person was very afraid of Lu Ming. Kill? Lu Ming charged toward the person. However, this person's spirit body was highly toxic and his life force was extremely tenacious. Moreover, he was determined to escape and did not want to fight at all. It was very difficult for Lu Ming to kill him on this small fighting ring. In the end, the other party successfully rushed out of the fighting ring, even though he was injured. Lu Ming sighed in pity. As a result, the 7 top experts of the 3 great sects, the Deity sect, the Sky Demon sect and the Yudu sect, were all defeated. Some died and some were defeated. The competition ended early. There was not much suspense in the following matches. Lu Ming was in charge alone and no one dared to fight. Every time it was Lu Ming's turn, he would choose a Heaven's God sect's paragon to kill. This made the Heaven's Pride experts on the platform of the Tianxin sect scared to death. In the end, in order to survive when they challenged others, they deliberately admitted defeat and rushed down the fighting stage. They even challenged the Tianyu demonic sect and the Yudu sect in order to preserve more people's lives. The 3 great sects had actually been forced to such a state by Lu Ming alone. This was a rare sight in history. After this battle, Lu Ming's name was destined to spread throughout the entire Azure continent. The challenges continued. Because the Tianxin sect's method was equivalent to admitting defeat, they were the first to be completely annihilated among the remaining 10 sections. This move of the Heaven God sect is really beautiful. Where did you learn it? Someone from the Dragon God Valley mocked. The disciples of the Heaven God sect on the grandstand all blushed, but no one refuted. Because he really had no face to refute. Before the treasure settling small meeting, the Heavenly God sect had announced that they would win 3 consecutive championships. But now it had completely become a joke. If not for the fact that they had used the right tactics and eliminated the 3 weakest sects in advance, they might not even have made it into the top 10. After the Divine Heaven sect was eliminated, Lu Ming set his sights on the Desire Poison sect. Considering that Xian Yinxing was the holy virgin of the Tianyu demonic sect, Lu Ming did not continue to challenge the other disciples of the Tianyu demonic sect after killing Mo He. This made the disciples of the Tianyu demonic sect heave a sigh of relief. As for the Yu Du sect, they were in a miserable state. Each and every one of them was trembling with fear. In the end, they simply adopted the method of the Tianxin sect and became the second sect to be eliminated. As the competition went on, the number of people left from the major sects decreased. Even the Life and Death Sword sect only had a few people left. This battle was the same as the previous ones. Although the Life and Death Sword sect had fewer people, they were all elites with terrifying combat strength. As for Luo Xiang, he had also risen in this battle. With his cultivation at the 5th level of the Martial Royal Realm, he had killed several 6th-level Martial Royal Realm geniuses in a row. His combat strength was extremely shocking. Gradually, one sect after another was completely annihilated. However, there was still one person sitting cross-legged on the 10th platform. Lu Ming. Long ago, Lu Ming was the only one left in Dragon God Valley. However, he was as steady as a rock and did not move. In the end, Lu Ming won't be the last one to let Dragon God Valley take first place, will he? Someone muttered, causing many people to look at each other. If that was the case, it would be a legend that would be passed down for hundreds of generations. Whoosh. With a flash of sword light, Luo Xiang stepped onto the fighting ring. Lu Ming, why don't you and I have a spar? Luo Xiang looked at Lu Ming. Chapter 1542 Chapter 1542 One Sword Strikes. Life and Death. Luo Xiang wanted to challenge Lu Ming? Many people's hearts trembled as they revealed looks of anticipation. Without a doubt, Lu Ming was the biggest dark horse this time. He was only at the LV4 Martial Royal Realm and had killed several top powerhouses with superior earth spiritual bodies. He had forced the Deity sect and the Yu Du sect to challenge the other sects on purpose and lose the battle on purpose, causing them to be eliminated early. And Luo Xiang wasn't weak either. Some people who knew Luo Xiang knew that he was a terrifying figure. He had stayed at the peak of the Supreme Being realm for 15 years in order to nurture his sword soul. Now, as a 5th-level Martial Royal Realm, he had killed a 6th-level Martial Royal Realm genius. His combat strength was unfathomable. Moreover, the life-death sword art was extremely terrifying. What kind of sparks would be created when Luo Xiang challenged Lu Ming? Lu Ming stood up and took a step forward. He descended from the fighting ring and stood opposite Luo Xiang. Lu Ming, how about we decide the winner with one move? Luo Xiang said. Sure. Lu Ming said. To be honest, he had a good impression of Luo Xiang. This was a true sword cultivator, sharp, decisive, but upright. He had his own bottom line. Previously, when the Tianxin sect, the Tianyu demonic sect, and the Yudu sect were hunting Dragon God Valley, Luo Xiang couldn't stand it anymore and killed the experts of the Tianxin sect. This was a man who was born for the sword. Lu Ming, you have to be careful. My life-death sword art can determine life and death with one strike. It has the meaning of I live, you die. If you can withstand one strike of mine, you win. Luo Xiang reminded. Go all out. If I die under your sword, I can only blame my lack of skill. Lu Ming said. His eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight. He also wanted to see the famous life and death sword art in Sangzhou. But, as he unsheathed his sword, a terrifying sharp light shot up into the sky from Luo Xiang's body. At this moment, Luo Xiang seemed to have turned into a peerless divine sword. He was no longer a human but a sword. However, it also seemed as if the sword in his hand was no longer a sword but a human. At this moment, Luo Xiang's sword seemed to have come alive and had a soul. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. He could feel a strong pressure from Luo Xiang. It was extremely rare for a 5th-level martial monarch to give him such a strong pressure. Lu Ming's vital essence began to circulate rapidly. The Emperor's spiritual weapon spear appeared in his hand and the chaos domain spread out. At the same time, Lu Ming's muscles, bones were wriggling slightly, ready to launch a terrifying attack at any time. Whoosh! At this moment, Luo Xiang moved. A ray of sword light cut through the void and stabbed toward Lu Ming. Under this sword light, the void seemed to be pierced. Everything in the world seemed to lose its color. It was as if this sword light was the only thing left in the world. It was terrifying, sharp, and accurate. At this moment, Lu Ming felt as if there was a terrifying sword aura pressing down on his body, making it difficult for him to move. In the face of this sword, it was as if he could only be killed. At this moment, a shocking dragon's roar came from Lu Ming's body. The dragon's roar was mighty and it was as if a real dragon had soared to the 9 heavens. his essential core boiled and Lu Ming broke through the terrifying sword force in one move. He became one with the spear and stabbed out. The spear was used with the power storing 13 strikes, and the body of the spear was covered with the chaos domain. A sword light and a spear light seemed to be the only things in the world at this moment. Clang. The spear radiance and the sword radiance were like two meteors in the deep sky, colliding with each other. A dazzling light spread out from the point of impact. It was like a sun that had suddenly exploded, and the world was covered in white. Many people felt a piercing pain in their eyes. Those with weaker cultivation could not help but close their eyes. How terrifying. 1. Some of the stronger cultivators poured their vital essence into their eyes and stared ahead. The dazzling light flashed and disappeared. When the light disappeared, everyone saw a figure flying backward. When he landed on the fighting ring, he retreated more than 10 steps before he stopped. Luo Xiang, the one who retreated, was Luo Xiang. At this moment, Luo Xiang's face was extremely pale, and the hand that was holding the sword was trembling. Lu Ming stood still and dense dragon scales appeared on his body. What a terrifying sword! Lu Ming heaved a long sigh of relief. There was a hint of shock in his eyes. The moment they clashed, the chaos realm that Lu Ming covered the long spear was pierced through by Luo Xiang's sword gleam. The terrifying sword chi followed the long spear and broke into Lu Ming's body. Dragon scales appeared on his body to block the attack. Even so, his skin still felt like it was being torn apart. From this, one could see how terrifying Luo Xiang's sword attack was. Life-Death Sword Art 1 sword strike could determine life and death. Every sword was a sword that could kill. Luo Xiang was much stronger than when he was in the Emperor Tsang's secret realm. This kind of strength did not refer to the increase in cultivation, but the ability to fight at the same level. At that time, Lu Ming's spirit body was only a low-grade earth spirit body, but he was able to defeat Luo Xiang. At that time, Luo Xiang was on the same level as Wang Jian and Shi Tian. But now Luo Xiang could easily kill Wang Jian Shi Tian, who was at the same level as him, with one sword. Spiritual body, he's still a medium-grade earth spiritual body, but he can make such a sword attack. It's incredible. Lu Ming thought in his heart. I've lost. Luo Xiang kept his sword and cupped his fists at Lu Ming. The sword attack just now could be said to be Luo Xiang's most powerful attack. If he could not defeat Lu Ming with one attack, he would lose. With that, Luo Xiang turned around and jumped off the fighting ring. Lu Ming did not pursue him. He and Luo Xiang were originally more of sparring. After Luo Xiang descended from the fighting ring, Lu Ming turned around and returned to the platform. The challenge continued. The following battles calmed down again, but undercurrents were surging. Because more than 30 rounds had already passed, and there were very few people on the various platforms. The battles were about to end. The rest were all powerhouses. After a few more rounds, there were less than 10 people left on the 13 platforms. However, the rest of them were all top experts. Most of them were heaven's favorites at the level of by Mo Han Sun and Mo He. At this moment, the people of the Tianshan sect and the Jianghu demonic sect had all been eliminated. A new round had begun, and it was the Heaven Seek King's turn to challenge them. The Heaven Seek King was extremely powerful, not any weaker than the Jianghu demonic sect or the Yudu sect. Right now there were only 2 people left in the Heaven Seek King, and both of them were top experts. There was only one person left from the Evil Moon sect. The leader of the Evil Moon sect was also a top expert. The Jiuxiao Sword sect also had one person left, who was also a top-tier expert. The Linglong Palace also had one person, a top-notch expert. There was also the Life and Death Sword sect and the Good Demon Castle. Each of them had one person and they were all top-notch experts. Including Lu Ming, there were 8 people in total. There were only 8 people left. On the surface, the Heaven Seek King was the strongest with 2 people left. However, at this moment all the major platforms fell silent. The 2 powerhouses from the Heaven Seek King swept their gazes across the rest of the people, but the one they looked at the most was Lu Ming. As for the powerhouses from the other sects, most of them were looking at Lu Ming with grave expressions. The treasure auction had reached the final moment, and the first place would be decided very soon. However, the first place would be rewarded with 7 Emperor Jade Pills, which everyone wanted. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.